Hey everybody, I'm Brian Tyler Cohen. Thank you so much for tuning into our Yes on 50 voter registration day rally. We've got an amazing guest list today. We're joined by some of the biggest fighters on the left who are meeting this moment with the urgency that it deserves. And of course, I'm joined now by Governor Gavin Newsom. Before we get into a little bit of our back and forth, just want to let folks who are watching know that we are hosting this rally because of what's happening right now. And what's happening right now is existential, not just for the left, but for democracy. Yeah. We have watched as Trump has issued his clarion call to Texas for 5 seats and how they responded. We've watched as he did the same thing in Missouri and how they responded. We're going to see the same thing in Indiana and then Florida. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see other states do the exact same thing. The reality is that this is how Republicans engineer themselves into a permanent majority, which makes it all the more important that we actually fight back. So the whole Republican movement across the country is going to pour money into California because they know that if they can beat this thing in California, then they have nothing to worry about in terms of pushing back against this overt, blatant power grab. So what we'll ask you to do throughout this evening as we try and raise money to counteract the avalanche of funds that are going to come in from across the country on the Republican side is we're going to ask you to go ahead and donate to yeson50live.com. This will help our efforts to make sure that everybody in California knows the stakes of what's going to happen on November 4th, knows the stakes of this referendum coming up, and knows that it is existential, again, not just for Democrats, but for the preservation of democracy itself. So that's going to be an important point that we're going to hit on numerous times throughout this evening. So with that said, I'm now honored to be joined by the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Thanks so much for taking the time.
It's great to be with you, Brian. Thank you.
So we are obviously broadcasting right now in the midst of a really difficult week. We have seen gun violence occur with the shooting last week against Charlie Kirk. We have seen the overt assaults against free speech at the hands of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and all of these other purported free speech warriors. And so in light of what we're seeing right now, I'm sure that there are a lot of folks who are watching this who feel exhausted. And so what would you say to those people who are watching to let them know that this is worth staying on top of, this is worth continuing to fight for?
Well, I first say is you're human. If you're not feeling exhausting and anxious and in some ways fearful, then you're not breathing, you're not living. And I think we have to give some people grace. The last 5, 6, 7 years, we've been through a once in a lifetime pandemic, social unrest. We went through all of the challenges coming out of COVID with supply chain issues and runaway inflation and wars of aggression in Ukraine and challenges that we're continuing to work our way out. And so I just want to acknowledge all that stacking of stress that everybody's feeling. And of course, last week, just the ultimate punctuation. Just for what it's worth, Brian, you know this. I started a podcast not too many months ago, and Charlie Kirk was my first guest. He was gracious enough to not only say yes, he flew out to do it in person. And I spent not just the hour plus in a very civil conversation with Charlie. I spent time with him after, and we stayed in touch, including my team stayed in touch pretty consistently. And that's the spirit I want to bring to this conversation, is one of civility, one of grace, one of humanity, common humanity. Obviously, we have deep differences of opinion. Obviously, he was very offended by positions I hold dear, and I, in turn, very offended by things that he said and positions he held. But the fact is, we had that opportunity to engage. And so I would say, in response to your question, it's absolutely essential that we, in the spirit of this moment, hold ourselves to a higher level of civility and accountability. In the spirit of this conversation, accountability to the moment we're in and the consequences of giving in to cynicism and anxiety and fear. And I just say to everyone in closing, in this spirit, you're the antidote to that cynicism, that fear and anxiety. The fact that you've tuned in means you've not tuned out to what's at stake. And I cannot impress upon people watching, it's all at stake. This is a profound and consequential moment in American history. We can lose this republic if we do not assert ourselves and stand tall at this moment and stand guard to this republic and our democracy. I feel that in my bones, particularly in light of what's happened in the last week.
So let's talk about the California map redraw, this situation that we're in right now. We have, not that many weeks to go until this referendum, until November. And so there are going to be folks watching who say, look, California is a big blue bastion. Why do we have to worry about this? This thing is already a done deal. Why is this worth talking about right now?
Well, because it's Prop 50 for a reason, impacts all 50 states. It's just not an electoral map. It's a simple math issue. You said it in the outset. Donald Trump realizes and recognizes that he is likely, almost overwhelmingly likely, to lose the midterms. And so he's trying to hold on to power. And the only way he can hold on to power is to rig the system, to change the game. He's not playing by a different set of rules. He's playing by no rules whatsoever. And that's why he dialed up Greg Abbott in Texas and suggested that he's, quote unquote, entitled to 5 seats. They did his bidding. And as you suggest, that bidding is being done in real time in Missouri, in Indiana. It will be advanced in states like Florida. And you may have seen today the comments that were made about Utah and Ohio as well. So this is as real as it gets. And the whole idea of redistricting, I assure you, is the tip of the iceberg, because he's also setting up the parameters and the condition where he can suggest that when he loses, and that's up to us if we do our job, when he loses the midterm, he could suggest it was rigged itself. He's quite creating a chill. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that as it relates to voter turnout and intimidation tactics. When we kicked off the campaign for Yes on 50, we did it at the Democracy Center in Southern California. Brian, you were there in Little Tokyo. You know well, and many of you watching know this well. Little Tokyo is the site, sacred site, where we shamefully bust the Japanese as we interned the Japanese. That happened. And at that exact same site, Donald Trump set masked private army. He sent out Border Patrol and ICE to intimidate two U.S. senators, a half dozen or dozen members of Congress, 100 plus community leaders, to try to intimidate us from holding the rally in the first place. And a poor soul that just happened to be out there selling strawberries was disappeared by that same private army. That is a preview of things to come, I assure you, at voting booths and polling places across this country. Just as we said after he federalized the National Guard and he sent the military, not overseas, he sent the military to a United States city in Los Angeles, 700 active duty Marines, is intended to chill free speech and free expression. The stakes could not be more clear, and the stakes could not be more consequential.
And finally, let's finish off with this. There are folks who are going to say that this isn't an example of good governance, and so Democrats should kind of practice what they preach and not do the same thing that they have disavowed for so long. And so, in this particular moment, what do you say to those people?
Well, we can certainly do that. We can have a candlelight vigil. We can hold hands. We could talk about the way the world should be. We could come out with a white paper and talk about, how did all this happen? There could be some best-selling books as we watched our democracy slip away, as we watched the rule of law turn into the rule of dawn, as we watch yet another law firm or another media organization sell their soul, or to see another corporate titan sitting there and give personal, sit there and fealty to the dear leader. We could see more companies get socialized and nationalized. We can watch universities sell out. We can see this democracy slip through our fingers. We can sit there and say, boy, people really should have stood up and taken this guy, Stephen Miller, a little bit more seriously when he called the Democratic Party a terrorist organization, or taking the Department of Justice and its attorney general, its leader, who said that any speech they don't like is now hate speech, and they'll have the ability to shut it down and say, boy, we could have done something more. Or we can recognize the moment we're in, and we can meet that moment, and we can push back, and we do it with some muscularity. We did this in response to what Donald Trump has done, and we've done it, in closing, Brian, in the most democratic way. And I would say that to those still on the fence. That's the difference between us and them. We're not only using our formal authority, our ability to fight fire with fire and redistrict, but we're using our moral authority in this respect. It's temporary, it's transparent, and it's democratic, meaning we're putting in front of the voters. This is the first maps in the United States that will actually be submitted to the people themselves. The maps will be on the ballot, and it's a temporary response to this emergency, this crisis of the rigging of the midterms. And we need to win this at peril that we'll lose this republic, we'll lose this democracy. It is not an overstatement. This is code red. We all need to wake up to what's going on. And maybe, in final words, maybe I'm saying that from the prism of being a governor of a state where I watched the military asserting themselves to try to take over for domestic policing, where I watched this private army that is the most funded private army of its type anywhere in the world, with ICE out there in masks, intimidating people and their free expression of speech. Maybe it's because I'm sitting here where the UC regions are meeting tomorrow to discuss a $1.9 billion extortion fine because institutions of higher learning and independent thinking are under assault by Donald Trump. That happens to be UCLA in my state. Maybe it's through the prism of that, but I assure you, in every state in America, I assure you this is a preview of things to come.
Perfectly put. And to underscore how important that is, the reality is Republicans know all of these things, which is why, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, they're going to pour a ton of money into this effort, because if they can neutralize California, that's all they need, especially with the weapons that they have at their disposal, meaning Texas, Missouri, Indiana, Florida, and on and on. So for those who are watching right now, if you'd like to help us make sure that everybody can become aware of what's happening in California, please donate what you can to yeson50live.com, and we'll be repeating that throughout the evening. With that said, I'd like to take the opportunity now to introduce my friends at Crooked Media, two of the hosts for Pod Save America, John Favreau and Tommy Vitor. Pod Save America, of course, is a liberal podcast, and Crooked is a media organization that was started after these guys served in senior positions in the Obama administration. John Favreau is the chief speechwriter, and Tommy was the spokesman for the National Security Council. It is my honor to introduce my friends, John and Tommy.
That's the nicest intro
Hey,
I've
Brian.
ever gotten. Jeez.
Yeah.
Feeling comfortable now.
You guys can pay me afterwards.
We already do. I pay you a stipend. Listen, thank you all for being here. Thank you for inviting us to the live stream. Thank you for raising money for this initiative, and Governor Newsom for putting this proposal forward. It's been a really scary, tough week, I think, for everybody. What happened to Charlie Kirk is an evil, indefensible tragedy, full stop, end of sentence. That said, what Donald Trump has signaled is to come is very scary. And it sort of reminds you of what this country could look like if there is no check on his power. And I think we have all thought and hoped and believed that the first check on his power would be the midterm elections. But clearly Donald Trump wants to steal the midterms through this redistricting process, and we have to fight back. And so that's why this is such an important proposition.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. In an ideal world, there would be no partisan gerrymandering, and everyone would sign on to the bill Democrats introduced a couple of years ago to have independent, nonpartisan redistricting all over the country. That is not the world we live in. Donald Trump decided one day that he wanted to squeeze 5 more seats out of Texas, and basically has been pretty honest about it. There's no pretext here. He's not trying to hide it. He's just saying, I want 5 more seats, and now I want all the other states that can give me more seats to redraw their maps so they can give me more seats as well. So then it's easier for me to win the midterms. So then I don't have to be investigated for anything. My administration doesn't have to be investigated for anything, and I can continue to confirm judges and pass all kinds of legislation. And if we win the midterms, Donald Trump will never sign a piece of legislation again. If we win the midterms, we can start trying to hold his administration accountable. And so this now comes down to Prop 50. And I know some people might think, well, it's California, Democratic voter registration advantage, should be no problem. It's going to be, a lower turnout election. And so a lot of political junkies, like the people who are probably watching this live stream, are going to show up, and that's that. Well, the other side is going to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to try to defeat this, because Donald Trump and the Republicans are very aware that if we draw the maps here to, try to neutralize what they're doing in Texas and other places, that it's going to be harder for them to win. And, reporting suggests that on Donald Trump's mind are the midterms more than they ever have been. He is very, very intent on winning these. He's very, very nervous about the possibility of being investigated, his administration being investigated. So they are going to dump an enormous amount of money in here, and they're going to try to get their base going and to get people to turn out in midterm elections that don't usually turn out, that usually just turn out for Donald Trump in presidential year. So they're throwing everything they have into this, which is why it's really, really important for everyone to donate so that we can get the word out, so that Governor Newsom can get the word out. And ballot initiatives in California are always a little confusing, having lived here for quite a while now. And so we have to remind everyone through communication, through spending money on ads, that you got to vote yes on this to make sure that we have a chance in the midterms to take back the House. So please, if you can, donate to yeson50live.com. You can go right there and donate. And thanks everyone for listening and for tuning in. And
now we're gonna bring in a Massachusetts luminary.
Yes,
Senator Elizabeth Warren is on the stream.
Our real home state senator.
Great to see you. Yeah.
Good to see you guys.
The Patriots are 1-1. That's the best news I've gotten all week. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you very much personally. But do keep in mind, I am here in Washington, D.C. And I go in every day that I'm here to work in a Senate controlled by spineless Republicans and to worry about what comes over from the House, which is controlled by spineless Republicans. You keep thinking about, why are they pouring so much into this? And I think you make exactly one important point, and that is Donald Trump does not want to be investigated. But I want to dig a little more on this, because part of what's at stake here is that what Donald Trump has been able to do over the last, how long has it been? 158 years. Since January when he was sworn in, is that he has been able to break the law over and over and over and over and over and over. And people say, what can we do? Well, I'll tell you, if just a tiny number of Republicans in the House or the Senate would say, we're done, we're not doing that, you can't do that. Donald Trump, yes, you are president, but here are things you cannot do. And used our leverage and said, we won't pass anything out of the House and out of the Congress. We won't give you funding. There are all these things we would have power to do. The problem is the Republicans just try to outdo each other in how fast they fall to the floor to kiss Donald Trump's feet. And the consequence of that is the whole basic structure of government now is breaking apart. So here we have Donald Trump, the would-be king, and Congress, under the Constitution, there was always this unspoken presumption would jealously guard its power. Well, it's not under Republican control. It is acting like a frightened child, just anything Donald Trump wants, just don't let him get angry with us. And so you've got the House and the Senate under Republican control just falling to the ground. The difference, if we had either of the houses under Democratic control, is that stops. And if we have both houses under Democratic control, now we are truly back in the game in terms of making our Constitution work again. And so I just think it's an important part for everybody to understand. It's about the midterms, yes, but please understand how important these midterms are. Any accountability for Donald Trump, any accountability is going to come because of the midterms, whether it's investigations, whether it's we get spending back. You want to support cancer research, so do I. Let me tell you the way to do that. That is vote yes on 50 so that we have a chance to get the House back. And that means we can be in those negotiations and make sure that the money that Congress allocates for cancer spending actually gets spent on trying to cure cancer. And I can just play that example out literally 1,000 times.
I mean, Senator, it was incredible today watching Kash Patel, the FBI director's hearing for whatever committee that was. And he is just clearly performing for an audience of one. He is shouting down Democratic senators. He's insulting them. He's speaking over them. He's threatening them, essentially. And the Republican chairman was, gaveling quiet the Democratic members. Like, to your point, at one point along the way, it seemed like each body or each institution like jealously guarded its own power above all else. But it seems like Republicans were just thrilled to watch this performance and to watch their colleagues be insulted.
Right. Can I be just a little dorky and make the same point again?
Please.
That is what's happening with the Federal Reserve. So here is the one agency that Democrats and Republicans have said for 100 zillion years, yes, the Fed needs to be independent. Why? Because the Fed sometimes has to make really hard policy decisions. And so everybody wants confidence, whether you got a Democrat or Republican in the White House, that they're doing it as best they can based on the numbers, based on what the economic data are. That's what we hope keeps our economy steady and helps protect Americans across this country. So what happens? Donald Trump gets to nominate someone. The guy he has nominated, this is no joke, Dr. Myron, now sits as the president of the Council of Economic Advisors, working in the White House for Trump. He's not going to give up that job. He wants to keep a foot in that boat while he goes over to the so-called independent Fed. And so every Republican senator at our hearing last week in banking, I know it didn't have all the sparkle of the Patel hearing, but every Republican senator, I believe in the independence of the Fed. So I asked this guy who's Donald Trump's nominee, I said, you're going to be independent, right? He said, oh, he's going to be independent. He wrote up his notes. I will be independent. I will be Mr. Independent. I said, great. Let's just test out how independent you can be of Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Mr. Independent could not answer that question. Well, it was ruled by a blah, 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 Senate and was confirmed, blah, blah, right? He could not bring himself to say those words. So I said, okay, let's go to another. I realize that one's sensitive. Let's go to what Donald Trump said when he fired the person who put out the labor statistics, the head of the
BLS.
BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I said, Donald Trump, and I read the quote, said this person lied and tried to help Kamala and falsified data. And I said, is that true? Again, here's the guy who's chief economist, literally could not say that maybe, just maybe, the president got a word or two wrong when he called the head of BLS a liar and a cheat and just maybe had overstepped a little bit. And I use that as an example of everybody who comes through to be confirmed starts with prostrating themselves in front of Donald Trump might be looking. And I am so grateful to Donald Trump. They all say, and I will do whatever he wants me to do. That's why I see Prop 50 as a fight for the independence of our democracy, a fight to say there's a check on power. For everybody who shut up for no kings, this is your chance in California to show up and just say, power, we get it. Presidents should have power, but there's got to be a check on that power. And right now, there ain't no check on that power. It's not coming from the Republicans in the House. It's not coming from the Republicans in the Senate. It sure as heck not coming from other people in government. And this is our chance to get a foot back in the door on that.
That's right. So donate to, you're on yeson50live.com, presumably, if you're watching this. Mm-hmm. But if you're not, go to yeson50live.com and donate, please.
Awesome. We'll leave it there. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. Thank you for showing up when it matters most. We appreciate it. It's a pleasure now to be able to introduce everybody to two content creators that I love watching. We have Josiah and Luke. So Josiah is a self-certified American politics geek who wants to see more progressive policy, a more ruthless Democratic Party, and the defeat of Trump's authoritarianism. Runs a podcast and a YouTube channel that I love called The Pondering. Luke Beasley, I'm sure most people know him as well, a multifaceted content creator and influencer, best known for his presence on YouTube and TikTok, where he hosts a variety of content that resonates with a growing audience. He hosts a show called The Luke Beasley Show, which blends news and humor. So we'll leave it to you guys right now.
Appreciate it, Brian. Thank you so much.
Josiah.
Luke, what's
My
up,
man?
man?
Hey.
Look, I don't want to say that this is the highlight of the evening, but part of me wants to say it's going to be the highlight of the evening. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, you and I talk online and offline a lot. I think one of the things that you describe your show as is advocating for more ruthless Democrats. And we have at many turns winced at the lack of a motivation, a passion to really push back against the tactics of the Republican Party. And I have to say, this is a refreshing shift from that, where it's all right, you're going to try to rig the game. We're actually going to have a powerful response to that. And we're going to use some of your tactics against you.
No, it's incredibly powerful. Like, you know, that's one of the things that made me so hyped about this from the very beginning, because in an age where Democrats just don't have power, and to be fair to the Democratic Party, despite all of our criticisms of it, right now at the federal level, they are locked out of power. They are limited in what they can do. And so that's why I think it's so important to recognize and reward and encourage what Governor Gavin Newsom is doing here in California, because he saw the terrain and he's like, okay, I'm not limited to, you know, sternly worded letters, right, and some TikTok videos. I can actually take decisive action. That's what he did. And, you know, together with California Democrats, he got a supermajority to pass this Proposition 50, so it goes to a ballot initiative on November 4th. And, folks, that's really the key part here. We need people to register to vote if you haven't yet, because, of course, today is National Voter Registration Day. But number two, there's a special election on November 4th that will decide, you know, potentially the fate of the next midterms and democracy consequently, by allowing Proposition 50 to pass. And that's what this is all about. So we have to recognize it, reward it, and encourage it, and hopefully inspire other Democrats in positions of power to take up the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the points that Senator Warren said when she was previously on, that it's so correct, and it drives me crazy how since Trump got into office, there is this, yes, spineless, but just kind of incoherent argument we hear every time Republicans in the Senate or the House are challenged on something. And a reporter asks, hey, are you going to use your power to rein in Trump on tariffs, on immigration? Are you going to do XYZ on the Epstein files? Will you push back against Medicaid cuts? Here's 11 things in Trump's horrendous bill that was now signed into law that would be destructive for Americans. You have power. It can't pass without you. What say you? And the response from almost all of them, with very rare exceptions, is Trump is something mandate, something American people elected him. Never ever even trying to acknowledge that they were also elected, and for a very specific purpose, which is they have power as well. And to see an institution, we see this with the Supreme Court too, willingly giving up its own power to the executive branch in some of its rulings. And Congress now, you would think at least ideological self-servingness would motivate them to do something. But instead, it's that same talking point of Trump was elected and he has a mandate. And I think it was correctly framed by Elizabeth Warren that this is more than just a California issue. And it's more than just, hey, let's do well in the midterms, Democrats. It's actually about bringing to a screeching halt what has been an unrestrained presidency thus far.
Yeah, and speaking of Congress, I mean, you mentioned a senator. We got a really good representative to also bring in. We've got Representative Jimmy Gomez of California's 34th District. What's going on, Congressman? Oh, you're muted, sir.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
You'd think after all these years, I'll know how to do that.
Listen, the fact that you got it like resolved in 3 seconds and not 50 seconds actually gives you a leg up on me, so I'm not going to judge.
It's like, wait, come here, staff. No, they're not here. I'm kidding.
So how are you? I mean, with all this going on, what do you feel about Proposition 50? How do you feel about all this?
You know what? I want to kind of like paint a picture of what's at stake, because a lot of people think that this is just another normal election. Everything's at fucking stake this election. It is, if we do not win back the House, then you're looking at a permanent MAGA version of America, not for 2 years, but at least for the next 10 years, because it is because they're going to solidify all the cuts that they did and build back better. They're the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to SNAP, the big tax giveaways to the largest corporations and the richest people in this country. Everything becomes solidified. And if there's no check from Congress and there's not been one from the courts, then the using the National Guard in states like in cities like my own city is only going to spread. I've warned about that in the early days of the National Guard and the Marines going into Los Angeles. We knew that this was going into Chicago, DC, that it was going to spread. So people have to understand that we're in this together. If you do not want this permanent version of America that's being developed, that's being built bit by bit by Donald Trump and the billionaire establishment, then we got to pass Proposition 50, because it is just a counterbalance to them trying to rig another congressional majority, starting out with stealing 5 seats in Texas.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the way you phrase it here, because, you know, Luke and I are talking about, long-term democratic institutions, but the fact of the matter is, it's not just so abstract. I mean, this is a Democratic majority would be able to prevent meaningful harm to the American people now. In the short term, as you said, like all of the Medicaid cuts that the Trump administration is aggressively pursuing, they're trying to gut the Affordable Care Act. And again, all of this to pay for exorbitant tax breaks for the people who need it the least, and to say nothing of, you said, the consolidation of power. If there's any oversight capacity to be done, if we're actually looking into Trump's corruption, for example, the $5 billion he's made off crypto, the $3.5 billion he's purported to have made in other aspects off monetizing the presidency, that oversight, as he's like looting the treasury of the United States effectively for all intents and purposes, that's going to come from a Democratic majority. And the only way that's going to happen, given all the gerrymandering and the election rigging he's doing, is if we pass Proposition 50.
Absolutely. And we got to pass Proposition 50 to counterbalance that, win these seats. But every single day, Democrats need to continuously earn the support of the public. That means showing up and fighting. People don't fucking support a boxer who said no mas in the ring. They want to see you throw down even if you're losing every round. They want to see you stalling the Republican agenda as much as possible. People think that we didn't do anything in the House, but guess what? The fact that we were kicking the shit out of the big billionaire bill, or Trump's one big beautiful bill, over and over and over, that's why it's such has low poll numbers, because we pointed out the flaws and how it was a big giveaway and how it's just corruption in legislative text format. And then we also said, you know what? We got to talk to the people that feel like they're getting screwed over by the system, the people we lost the last election, what Gavin Newsom is doing, what a lot of members of Congress are doing by going into these red areas, because those are the people we have to win over. But if we allow them to gerrymander, rig the election, and we don't respond, well, shame on us. And here's the thing, it is going to be solidified. The MAGA version of America will be solidified. So this is a fight for our democracy, to hold this corrupt family, this mob family accountable, and make sure that we have something to push back with. And don't get me wrong, we win, it's not going to be all unicorns, rainbows, and sunshine. We're going to have a caged animal on our hands, and that caged animal is going to get more aggressive, not less. So but at the same time, I'd rather have that situation where we have an opportunity to win the fight versus one where we're basically where you have Republicans in Congress capitulating the authority of the legislative branch.
Yeah, I want to give the final word to Luke. I just want to say for donations, please go to yeson50live.com to back up Proposition 50. Luke, what do you say, man?
Yeah, I was just going to say, great points there. I do think, and I have one question if we have time for the congressman while we have him. I'm not able to see the chat, so y'all can just jump on when it's time to wrap. But I think it's crucial, the message of what it is, investigations in reining in the power of Trump, priorities that are framed as against Trump's actions. And it's pretty dang clear, as you talked about with the lack of popularity of Trump's monstrosity of a bill, that his agenda, that and other aspects of it, has been successfully messaged to be bad for most Americans. The thing that I do hear a lot still, though, when I'm just chatting with people who aren't super political, but kind of a little bit have their ear to the ground, is a feeling that I get the Democrats really want to stop what Trump's doing. But what is the clear, concise message as if they had all the power in the world, what they would be accomplishing? Could you speak to that, Congressman?
Yeah, absolutely. We would be tackling the number one issue for all Americans, which is affordability, right? Trump said he was going to lower costs on day one. He didn't do that. And because of that, what you have is a collapsing of belief that if you work hard, you can get ahead and your family can do better. So we would talk about an affordability agenda, an agenda for the American family that can allow them to buy a house, to get ahead, to save money for college or start a small business. What we're doing is actually doing the work. Last week, I just held 2 weeks ago, I held a national summit on the housing affordability crisis. It's one of the number one issues people talk about. And it's the first time there's ever been a national summit. So what we're going to do is going to go after these issues step by step: childcare, housing, tackle corruption in the Trump administration, and then allow people to have a belief that they can get ahead. Because right now, the people we keep losing are the ones that feel that they can't work hard enough and live their version of the American dream, whatever that is. So we have an agenda, and I believe it's going to be an agenda that restores people's faith, not only in the Democratic Party, but also in the idea of America itself.
Awesome. Thank you all. We appreciate Congressman, Luke, Josiah. Thank you guys all for being here. I want to jump right on to the next one. But first, a quick note that we are at 98% of our first goal. So we're almost at $100,000. Yeson50live.com. If you've not yet donated, please help support this effort. This is the whole ball game here. Okay. I'm going to introduce now two folks. We have Katie Fang and Congressman Robert Garcia. Katie Fang hosts the Katie Fang YouTube channel powered by the Midas Touch Network. She is an attorney, a legal analyst, a former MSNBC anchor. She delivers sharp analysis, in-depth interviews, and must-see commentary on the legal and political stories that are shaping our democracy. She's also a welcome new entrant into the independent media space. So glad to have you, Katie. And of course, Congressman Robert Garcia represents California's 42nd Congressional District, is now the ranking member of the powerful Oversight Committee, and represents one of the first instances of true generational change that we're seeing in this Congress. So I'll throw to you both here right now.
Thanks, Brian. So good to see you. Congressman Garcia, Papo, it's good to see you. Look, let's just start straight out of the gate and remind people that this whole thing got started with that bullshit letter from the Department of Justice sent to Texas, alleging some pretextual thing that there was some illegal gerrymandering that was going on in Texas in 4 congressional districts, even though that map that was allegedly so bad was one that the Republicans did. So that, I just want to underscore the fact that they're weaponizing the Department of Justice to be able to illegally rig elections. Now let's fast forward to what we got going on right now, which is if the policies for America are so great by the Republicans, why are they trying to rig the elections and try to redistrict and redo these maps?
Hey everyone, Katie, you're absolutely right. I mean, first, let's be really clear that we've never in the history of this country have seen a Department of Justice be weaponized in this way. And it's not just on redistricting. We're seeing it after going after political enemies. We're seeing it trying to quell dissent. We're seeing essentially the pardons of people that should have no business getting any sort of leniency from the United States, the attack on the courts, the attack on academic institutions, all from the Department of Justice, which we know traditionally has had a separation from the White House. Not in Donald Trump's America. In Donald Trump's America, he can have his own police force, which is now ICE. In Donald Trump's America, he can lie and cheat his way to the White House. In Donald Trump's America, he can attack whoever he wants without consequence. He can hide the Epstein files and ignore survivors. And in this case, this is Donald Trump's plan to essentially rig and steal the 2026 election. Completely planned out by him, Stephen Miller, and that entire team over there at the White House. And so they have been working towards this. It moved fast, but our reaction in California has been in response to the DOJ and Trump's trying to rig and gerrymander Texas. We have had, as you know, a commission in the state that, by the way, I supported. I actively supported our independent commission, but we can no longer have two hands tied behind our back as Republicans steamroll their rigging of and gerrymandering of elections, as they try to take our rights, as they try to destroy the Constitution. And so I am committed to this fight. I'm so grateful to the governor for leading this fight in the state. And people got to know this is all about rigging 2026 and setting up 2028.
It's really important for people to know too, Congressman, that you're actually impacted. Your district is actually impacted by these maps that have been proposed for Proposition 50, and you still support it, even though your district has been impacted.
It has. Look, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually taking more Republicans than any other Democrat in the state of California in the California map, absorbing Republicans. And I, when asked, by a delegation to do so, I did it because we have our democracies at stake. And so this is not a moment for us to worry about not having competitive seats or worried about being in Congress for a lifetime. This is about winning the majority to protect people and to save our country. And so, look, I still have a fairly blue seat. I'm going to win my reelection, but I went from a super safe, very progressive, deep, over 30 points, 35 points, to a much closer seat, one where I'm having communities across Orange County in much more conservative areas, and more absorbing more Republicans than any other member of our delegation. And I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, because we can win this seat, and we will. But we need people's support. We need folks to come out, vote for Prop 50, support candidates now that are going to have a little bit tougher seats. But like I told folks that have asked, hey, you're pretty progressive. Is this going to impact the way you take on Trump or the Oversight Committee? And I'll tell you, absolutely not. Looking forward to continuing having the fire and fighting back.
Yeah, and even though Proposition 50 is specific to California, this will impact all of America when it comes to competent representation for constituents in Congress. I want to focus on the work that you're doing in House Oversight. And the reason why is obviously part of the biggest part of discourse these days has to do with the Epstein files. If it wasn't for people like you, Congresswoman Summerlee, and others, there wouldn't be this push for transparency. Talk about why making sure that Democrats have the right type of representation in DC is a sure pathway to make sure that we actually get the transparency that Americans deserve.
This is why I think generational change in our party is really important. And this is why electing and bringing forward new leaders is critical. Katie, as you know, when I was running for Oversight, the leader of the Democrats on Oversight, and I'm in my second term in Congress, so I'm still a fairly new person in Congress standards. And, we won our election. I'm the first sophomore to win an election to lead a committee in over 100 years in our party. And I'm proud of that, because that tells me that our caucus and the party is changing, that they understand that we've got to bring in new voices. We got to expand the tent. We got to let more people in. We can't be this party of subtraction. Like, why aren't we the party of adding more folks, of coalition building? And I think that's what Prop 50 is also about, is we want to go national and take this national. And what's really critical is, as it relates to Epstein, you think about all the fight that we have in front of us. It's all these new generation younger members that are pushing. I mean, you talked about Summerlee. We partnered in getting that subpoena out. She's in my class. You talk about folks like Jasmine Crockett, who is on fire, I think, bringing and leading this country in so many ways on issues that matter to working people. She's on our committee. She was also in my class. And so I think you're seeing younger, newer Democrats, I hope, modeling what it means to fight. And in this moment for Prop 50, we've got to be aggressive. We've got to back our governor. We've got to be all in, because this could mean essentially us being able to stop the Trump agenda and dramatically slow it down, or giving him free rein to continue to rig more and more states, take away more of our rights, give more of our hard-earned labor to billionaires in this country, and to take away more health care. And so we've got to stop this now, and I'm proud that California is leading the way.
There's a false narrative that's being pushed by the Republicans that this is an apples to apples comparison when we look at what was happening in Texas and now what is being proposed with Prop 50 in California. Talk about why that's just a lie. That frankly, one, Texas had a freaking off-ramp that it could have taken. Governor Newsom gave it to Texas, gave it to Trump, gave it to all of them to be able to do before we got to this point in California. And why the opportunities that are being given to the California voters is definitely not what we're seeing happening in Texas.
I mean, what a shock. Republicans are lying about something. I know we're all stunned right now, but look, I think what's happening here in this case is that the difference between what Texas did, which we only are doing in reaction to them, is that they're gerrymandering through their legislature, not the will of the people. Their kind of public process was a complete sham. So many other Texans know this. And for us, look, we support a commission, but what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the voters. We're going to put the map on the ballot. So our map is actually going to be voted by the people, unlike what's happening in Texas. And so when we get Prop 50 across the finish line and we win, it'll be because the voters of California have decided they're not going to allow essentially what's happening in Texas with their governor to somehow dominate the next 2026 election. So I'm proud of what we're doing here in the state. And let me just add, because one of my roommates is an amazing Texan himself and a great congressman. Let me just add that I do appreciate all the Texans that have really fought this every step of the way back home in Texas. And we're here as partners. We want to support what they're doing as well. They need our support also.
Yeah, I see Brian here. I know we're going to be parting ways, but Congressman, I did want to remind everybody who's tuning in, if you go to www.yeson50live.com, not only can you donate, which you have to because Prop 50 has got to be yes, but you can also volunteer and you can sign up and get more information. I always say knowledge is power, and the more that we can share, we're definitely going to be in better space. I want to say thank you to Congressman Robert Garcia, representing the 42nd Congressional District from the great state of California. Brian, I see you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. We really appreciate you being a part of this, and thank you for promoting Yes on Live, yeson50live.com. We are making quite a big dent in terms of getting these donations up. We are on our way to $200,000, not even an hour into this thing. If you've not yet donated, please help this effort. This is the whole ball game here. I could not be more excited to promote the next duo. We have Beto O'Rourke and Mark Elias. Beto came within just 2 points of unseating Ted Cruz in 2018. He is a huge inspiration for me. Every time Beto speaks, it is difficult not to just sit there and be enthralled and listen. He is in large part the best of the Democratic Party. And also I should note that race that he ran in 2018 also resulted in a raft of Democrats sweeping into office thanks to his efforts, including a record 19 black female judges. So a huge accomplishment by Beto. Mark Elias founded Democracy Docket, which is a website focused on voting rights and election litigation in the U.S. If there is a hero for democracy, if there is a fighter for democracy, it's Mark. I speak for everybody watching in thanking you, Mark, for the work that you do on the front lines in both the courts and in the media. So I'll leave it both to you to take it from here.
Hey, Brian, thank you for having us and for leading this effort in this conversation here tonight, and for everyone who's part of it, getting to listen to the previous conversation. I'm pretty fired up, and I love the dots that the congressman was connecting between what has happened in my home state of Texas and what you all are doing right now in California. We're fighting fire with fire. We didn't ask for this fight, but the fight has come to us, and we're standing up and we're stepping up and we're fighting. And how important that we do this at a time that so many have chosen to bend the knee and to submit to Donald Trump. I mean, all the conventional centers of power, the Ivy League universities, the big law firms, with some exceptions, the media companies, Paramount and CBS, the tech titans, the billionaire masters of algorithm, all submitting, all who have the power actually to resist and to fight and potentially to overcome this slide into authoritarianism. And yet here you have some brave people here in Texas, the Democratic state legislators who broke quorum to deny the Republican counterparts the numbers needed, initially at least, to redraw the maps, but certainly to draw the conversation to Texas, to our democracy, and the need to fight. And then thanks to everyone in California, most importantly, Governor Newsom, for leading that fight and making sure through a very democratic process, literally this is going to be brought to the voters in Proposition 50, redrawing these districts so that we can pick up 5 additional congressional seats to replace those stolen, likely here in the state of Texas. And lastly, and most importantly, to win political power, a majority in the House of Representatives. If we win that, there will be a check on Trump's lawlessness, accountability for his corruption and crimes, and the very real possibility of free and fair elections in 2028. If we fail, the consolidation of authoritarian power in Trump's hands, I believe, after 2026, will be unstoppable. More masked, plainclothes federal agents sweeping our fellow Americans up off the streets, more of his political opponents targeted for vengeance and retribution. And we know the Republican majority House of Representatives will likely try to roll out the royal red carpet for a 3rd Trump term. Those are the stakes. That's why it's so incredibly important that we fight. And for everyone who's listening and watching right now, please donate, pitch in, support this effort. And now I'm going to turn it over to my hero, Mark Elias, who is doing great work across the country, including here in Texas, making sure that we fight with everything that we've got. Mark, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Beto, and thank you, Brian Tyler Cohen. You know, Beto is going to be on my podcast tomorrow morning, so everyone needs to check that out, and because he is a true inspiration. The thing about Beto that everyone needs to know is that there are a whole lot of people who are talking about this fight. Beto put himself between the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, who is an absolute raving lunatic, and the legislators. When Ken Paxton was threatening everybody, you better not show support. You better not say anything positive about these state legislators. By the way, sounds an awful lot like a president we have right now and a White House right now. Beto said, "I'll be damned if I'm gonna bow down or step back." And he stepped forward and was as critical to the success that we saw in Texas. And if we wind up winning this lawsuit, we will all owe Beto O'Rourke a huge round of thank yous. And Brian, there's not enough I can say in the world about everything you have done for democracy, both in California and around the country. I see Senator Padilla coming up, another one of my heroes, Robert Garcia, Congressman. Great job. But here's the thing I need to tell everybody. Donald Trump is trying to rig the 2026 election because he is afraid that he is going to lose control of Congress. And there is no easier way. There is no more direct line from point A to point B in his effort than to set off a series of dominoes to redraw in the middle of the district, middle of the census decade, the maps to do that. He started in Texas and grabbed 5 seats. He has already moved to Missouri and grabbed 1 seat. He is going to move to Indiana. He's going to move to Florida, Ohio. The list goes on and on. And what we are watching in California is a Democratic Party, is an effort, a grassroots movement to not let this happen on our watch. You know, we can all agree that in a perfect world, we will have nonpartisan redistricting commissions. We can all agree that in a perfect world that we will not have mid-cycle redistricting. But the folks behind this in California, starting with the governor on down, they said, we are not going to sacrifice our democracy for a nonpartisan map. We are not going to let the U.S. Constitution and the state law become a suicide pact for democracy. This is an all hands on deck. If this ballot initiative passes, then we have a chance. We have a chance to show Republicans that they will not get away with these kinds of tactics, and to enact a price on the Republicans in Congress The people who have Mike Johnson's here, the people who have Donald can get an appointment with the White House to convince them that they need to lobby against these efforts in the future. If this fails, then it is just going to provide more incentive for Republicans to fight harder. So the thing I need everybody to do right now is go to yes50live.com. Okay, I'll take a second. I got all the time in the world. Yes on 50live.com. And I need you to go and I need to give what you can give. If it's $1, give $1. If it's $10, give $10. If it's $1,000, by God, give them $1,000 and then give them a tip on top of it. All right. We all need to do the thing we can do. And right now, the easiest thing for you to do is to go to that website and to donate so that the hard work that all of these people are doing in California and people like Beto O'Rourke, who is literally putting himself on the line, like not just appearing on your live streams, but putting himself in jeopardy, that they will have a chance along with the rest of us to fight for democracy. So Beto, I just want to thank you on behalf of everybody who is watching this and everyone who will watch it in the future. History will record you as one of the great heroes. When democracy was at stake, you stood up. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank Brian and everybody else.
Super kind of you to say that, and listen, right back at you. Brian and I had this conversation a couple of months ago, and it's one of the reasons I also love Brian Tyler Cohen so much. He's one of the few people out there, at least at the beginning of this, who understood the urgency of the moment. I think for far too long, present company excluded, Democrats cared far more about being right than they cared about being in power. While at the same time, Trump only cared about being in power. He didn't care what was right, what was legal, what was moral, what was ethical. It was all about power. And thanks to Brian Tyler Cohen, who's really been waking people up across this country. Thanks to you, Mark, for what you've been doing in courtrooms across the United States of America. I think our fellow citizens are waking up. And it's not just Democrats, by the way. As you know, it is independents, it is Republicans, it's people who believe in our democracy, in self-government, and a government of, by, and for the people, that 249 years into this experiment, we are on the verge of losing unless we stand up and fight with everything that we've got right now. There are about 14 months left to us. And again, if we fail in this proposition, then we lose the republic. If we win, we're in for another round or two for as long as we can keep fighting to win this thing back. And for everyone out there who is so sick and tired of Democrats not fighting with everything that they've got. As Mark just said, you finally have a governor here in California. You finally have a movement in California. You finally have a movement that's waking up the rest of this country that is fighting with everything that they've got. And it is so goddamn exciting because we have waited so long to see this happen within our party. Do not allow this moment to pass without a fight. And if you're wondering what your part in that fight is right now, it is donating, as Mark said, everything that you can right now. I will be joining you. Amy and I are going to be making a donation tonight. I bet Mark has already made a donation.
Absolutely. I'm on the website.
Yeah. So let's get it done. I mean, do not allow this moment to pass without a fight. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And let me just say in 20 seconds here, Brian, I want to also echo what Beto said. Brian Tyler Cohen doesn't have to be doing this. Brian doesn't have to do a lot of stuff that he does to stand up and fight for democracy. And for all of the shit that gets thrown here and there, we owe him a big debt of gratitude. There would not be a Mark Elias on YouTube without Brian Tyler Cohen. Okay. Like the Democracy Watch series that he approached me on has been vitally important in spreading the word. And he has done enormously important work. So thank you, Brian.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you both so much. And, it's an honor to be talking to both of you. These are the biggest and best fighters that we have on the left here. So couldn't be more grateful for your voices here. One more reminder for everybody watching. It is so important right now, just to give a lay of the land, it is so important right now to donate if you can. There will be an unlimited amount of money coming into the state of California from every corner of the United States. Every Republican is going to make sure that they can neutralize what happens in California, because if they can take California's redraw off the map, so to speak, then they don't have to worry about anything. They've got this thing in the bag. California is how we neutralize what's happening in Texas and Missouri and Indiana. And we know that these things are happening on the right because we've seen it happen. Donald Trump says jump, these governors say how high. We've seen it happen in Texas. We already saw it happen in Missouri. It's going to happen in Ohio and Indiana and Florida as well. So this is our way to fight back. Again, an unlimited sum of money is going to come into the state from every corner of the country to bolster the Republicans' position. We rely on small dollar donors. We rely on everybody watching right now to be able to get the word out to all of those Californians who aren't watching this live stream right now. So a small step that everybody can take is to go to yeson50live.com and donate what you can. Okay. It is my honor now to be able to introduce two more folks. We have Ben Meiselas, who co-founded the Midas Touch Network, which is the top viewed political YouTube channel and the most listened to podcast each month of this year. Huge congratulations to Ben and your brothers for what you've built in Midas Touch. I could not be more proud to see that the left is fighting back, and you guys are a huge, huge, huge part of that. So thank you for the work you're doing. And congratulations on all of the well-deserved accolades that you guys have gotten. And I'm also going to call in Governor Newsom now, who, of course, is the center of all of this. We have been, begging and pleading for Democrats who are willing to match their words and their rhetoric with action, and nobody has better exemplified that than the governor. So I'll let you both take it from here.
Governor Newsom, it's great to see you, the man of the hour right now. When your name is on Donald Trump's social media, it seems, on an almost hourly basis, whether it's Donald Trump claiming that he saved Los Angeles by turning on a magical faucet somewhere in the imaginary border between California and Canada, whether it's Donald Trump saying that he saved Los Angeles again a few months back, whatever he was making up about you today. It seems that you standing up to him is having a certain type of reaction, doesn't it?
Oh, I appreciate that. It's it's a point of pride. I mean, there was almost 48 hours where I felt he'd forgotten about me, but you're right. No, he tried to hit me on his way over to the UK. And it's a reminder of what we're up against: mis and disinformation, just complete bullshit. Excuse my language. That comes from Donald Trump. And that's why it's important that we're not only winning the war in the spirit of what Beto and Mark just brought to this conversation on the ground, in the spirit of what Brian talked about in terms of this grassroots people power effort to push back against the well-heeled. But it's absolutely critical that we win the messaging war as well, that we organize in a much more, much more, intense way to communicate over and over and over again our message across the spectrum, which is just foundational in all these efforts.
Look, the federal government once again is heading towards another shutdown potentially, but Donald Trump has ordered MAGA Mike Johnson and Republicans do not even have conversations with Democrats. He's repeatedly referred to Democrats as the enemy, radical, don't deal with them, don't even talk to them. You've been in politics for a little bit. That's not the way it always was, but it is what Donald Trump has turned the body politic into today, kind of this zero-sum game, if you will. And we see it play out over and over again. And, it seems as the American people are letting their voices be heard right now, he's getting more and more nervous, hence trying to rig these midterms.
No, look, I mean, I think what you've underscored is the fundamental point here. Trump is weakness. He's weakness masquerading as strength. He's flailing. The economy is cooling. Inflation's starting to rise again. Consumer confidence is down. Credit card debt is going up. The tariffs have terrified our allies, and taxes are being felt on the American people and middle-class families. His only legislative success, the big, beautiful bill, is anything but. It's a big, beautiful betrayal. And we're seeing all of these authoritarian tendencies as a response to that weakness. And the more you see caps in his Truth Social and his tweets, the more that just underscores the fact that he's flailing. That's why he's trying to rig this election. That's why we're having this conversation. That's what Prop 50 is all about. It's pushing back in a meaningful and substantive way. But one cannot underestimate the lengths to which he will go to not just rig the midterms, but the impacts if he's successful, well beyond that. And I really appreciated Beto and Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, others really highlighting that, Congressman Garcia, that this is not just about 2025, the impacts on 2026 and 2028 and beyond. The consequences of this initiative to set the tone and tenor into 2026 to de facto end the Trump presidency, next year's midterms, whereas Tommy said in the outset, Donald Trump will no longer be able to sign any bill because we'll finally have a check on his power.
You know, living in California is something that I have a great deal of pride about. We are the fourth largest economy in the world. If California was a country, we are a giver state. We give $80 billion plus more to the federal government than we take. By contrast, Texas takes about $75 billion more than it gives. You go through every stat in entrepreneurship, companies. California is leading the way. But it's constantly under attack by Trump and lots of people in red states who, let's face it, I know how Donald Trump likes to falsely say that the United States subsidizes Canada, which is not accurate and completely false. But let's face it, a lot of these red states are failing. But for California kind of subsidizing the country, yet they then come and attack us here in California. I don't like that, Gov.
I'm with you, man. It's the California derangement syndrome. And with respect to our friend Beto O'Rourke, you're exactly right. $71.1 billion taker state. California, $83.1 billion donor state, meaning we provide $83+ billion more in revenue to the federal government than we receive back. And that is the case, vast majority of blue states. But we also have to state the facts. I live in California, you live here, size of 21 state populations combined, the fourth largest economy from a GDP in the world, more scientists, engineers, more researchers, more Nobel laureates than any state in the nation. A system of education that's a conveyor belt for talent, the UC, CSUs, our community college system, pushing out the boundaries of discovery, more venture capital, and we dominate in the next big global economy, 32 of the top 50 AI companies all here in the state of California. So our state of mind is about not just imagination, but it's innovation. It's dreaming and doing. And it's not lost on me, and it shouldn't be lost on anybody, that part of our secret sauce is the fact that we are able to get the best and the brightest from around the globe. First round draft choices. We're a majority minority state. That our best doesn't tolerate that diversity. We celebrate that diversity. All of that's on the line in terms of the assaults of Trump and Trumpism and going after DEI, ESG, CRT, anything with three letters, this guy seems to be assaulting. And so what Proposition 50 represents is an opportunity to check his power. It's about checks and balances. It's about the rule of law. It's about co-equal branches of government. And that's why I'm so grateful to you and so many others that are tuning in so that we can tune up an understanding of what's at stake with this initiative.
Let's talk about this event today before we go. National Voter Registration Day, so it has an added layer of significance. The website is yeson50live.com. Everybody go there. I'm going to make a donation after this at yeson50live.com. But you bringing together all of these people here in new media, bringing members of Congress and senators and leaders together, rallying together to support our democracy and to support this existential threat. How big of a deal is this event today, Governor? I
think it's huge because you guys have done one thing that I think we all need. I imagine you might need, and that's some optimism, some hope. I think that we show up for each other. We're showing up for a cause greater than ourselves. And as Beto was saying, 249 years of these enduring principles and values, the best of Roman Republic and Greek democracy, about to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our founding fathers. It's all on the line. It's all at stake. And I think for me to see everybody show up like this, that's incredible. It gives me a sense of optimism and hopefulness. And what I think it also represents from a very organized perspective is that we're not just engaging in platform thinking, we're also engaged in platform doing, that we're actually manifesting something here. We have something to be for. We have work to do. We have agency. And what I think this whole engagement tonight represents is the power of the people In a democracy, Brandeis said it best, the most important office is office of citizen, active, not inert citizenship. And it's people making contributions, $3, $5, $10, making contributions by going out there and volunteering that will be the story that will define not just the success of Prop 50, but the story that I think will define this moment in the history books as we move into the 250th anniversary of
Governor, thank you for what you're doing. Great conversation. I echo what everyone else said about you, Brian Tyler Cohen. You gave me that very nice intro, but you're the OG in YouTube, and you've paved the way for a lot of people like us. And thank you for putting this event together, Brian. Governor, thanks for fighting for us. You give us all hope to see the governor, the largest state in the United States, pushing back, fighting for democracy. Thanks for everything you're doing, Governor.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you both. And look, this is, again, to echo what Ben and the governor were saying, this is what it looks like when you actually put words behind action. For so long, Democrats have been begging for not just strongly worded letters, but for actual real action, for actual push to what we're saying. And that's what we're seeing right here in California. But that's just half the battle. This thing is going to be a referendum on the ballot, but California is a huge state, and it's going to require getting the word out to so many people. And Republicans are already doing it. The day that this thing was announced, we had Republican operatives sending mailers out to every single address in the state. I know that if you live in California, you've seen them. You've gotten those mailers in your mailbox saying to vote no. We have to push back. This is our way to protect not just the future of the Democratic Party, but the future of democracy itself. And that relies on being able to reach all of those people who aren't paying attention to politics on a daily basis, which, to be honest, sounds good for everybody's mental health, but the reality is that it's going to take a lot of push from all of us who are paying attention to make sure that people know what's going on. So we are getting very close to our $200,000 mark, which is a huge milestone. But please, if you haven't yet donated, go to yesonfiftylive.com. Okay, I'm so excited to be able to introduce our two next guests. We have Joe Carducci and Senator Alex Padilla. I'm sure you've heard JoJo from Jers. She's worked so hard to make herself a household name. I'm also very proud to be from the same home state as her, the state of New Jersey, where it should be known that we have the best pizza in the country. And Senator Padilla, U.S. Senator from right here in my new home state of California. This is the senator who made a name for himself this year by putting his body on the line when he was arrested by the Trump administration for daring speak out. And that's exactly the kind of forward-leaning posture that we want to see from our elected officials. So I'll let you guys take it from here.
Well, first of all, thank you, Brian. I did not know that you were from the Garden State, the greatest state in the country. No offense. I'm just kidding. I'm here from New Jersey participating in this event for Prop 50 in California because I understand that the stakes of this moment are much greater than the best state on the planet, which is, of course, New Jersey. Again, no offense. But Senator Padilla, it is wonderful to see you again under slightly better circumstances than the last time we spoke. But pleasure. I just wanted, I'm happy to see your face. I feel like we bonded a little bit in a unique way through some tragedy that happened last week. But I wanted to just start with something that is important to me, a thread that ties us together, which is that we are the children of immigrants. And the governor just said, in this country we celebrate diversity. Your parents, my dad, they believed in the American dream. They worked toward that end. They participated in achieving that. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans, they don't appreciate that diversity. They, on the other hand, quite the contrary. They're trying to attack it. And so I want to start there, if you might, with what's at stake right now for the American dream for people like your parents, people like my dad.
Sure. No, Jojo, great to be back with you. And I mean, I think a couple of things. Why does Donald Trump have it in for California so badly? It's because California is like the opposite of his vision. California is not the most populous state in the nation, the most diverse state in the nation, home to more immigrants than any state in the nation. And as you've been hearing, California has grown to become the fourth largest economy in the world. And that's not a coincidence. That doesn't happen despite the immigrant population. It's because of the immigrant population, the contributions of so many immigrants as workers, of course, but also as consumers and as entrepreneurs. But because of and there's a lot to say about Donald Trump here, but California is the embodiment of what the future of the country is, increasingly diverse, and we should be increasingly inclusive if we want to embrace the economic and cultural impact of it. But what does Donald Trump do? He attacks California. This mass deportation agenda that he has started his administration with is centered not just in California, but my hometown of Los Angeles. So imagine how offended I feel as a proud son of immigrants when, look, I knew my dad who worked for 40 years as a short order cook. My mom worked for 40 years cleaning houses so that my brother, my sister, and I can get a good education. That was it, and achieve the American dream. And that's the same story of millions of immigrants throughout California and throughout the country. And Trump and Republicans just can't handle it. So instead of trying to build on that success and that strength, they try to demonize it and attack it. So it's one of the many arguments why we need to support Proposition 50, because Prop 50 has been the most powerful tool presented to us to rein in this out of control administration. They want to steal next November's election by rigging it before it even starts. But California is going to step up and push back by approving Prop 50 this November.
I appreciate the fight coming from California very, very much. This is obviously the moment to be meeting, and the governor and all of your leadership are meeting this moment extraordinarily. And so I want to speak to your point about what Republicans are doing and ask you, why are they trying to cheat ahead of the midterms in 2026? I mean, what do they know?
Look, my point of view, both as a Californian and as a member of the Senate here, to me, it's pretty obvious. Under normal circumstances, a party in power would be proud of their legislative accomplishments, and they'd run on their record in the midterms to try to stay in power. But that's not what's happening here. They know how not just unpopular, but damaging their record has been. Right? This destruction of confidence in the judiciary, the federal government as we know it, their cuts to healthcare, their cuts to nutrition assistance programs, their tax breaks for billionaires, on and on and on. The only hope they have to hold on to power next year is to rig the election before it even starts. So before I even get to redistricting, whether it's legislation they've introduced or the executive orders to make it harder for eligible Americans to register to vote, to stay registered to vote, or to actually cast your ballot, that's just part of it. The Department of Justice, and I'm a member of the judiciary, I've seen it up close and personal, they're politicizing the Department of Justice now, just like they did in the first Trump term, trying to obtain all the personal information of voters in select states to try to tee up the purging of voter rolls. And on top of that, this redistricting push. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I first saw the news report of Trump calling Governor Abbott in Texas saying, five more Republican seats, it sounded a lot like when Donald Trump called the Secretary of State in Georgia in 2020, when he said, find me 11,000 more votes. They'll do anything to cling to power. That's what this is. And so as I try to sum it up to folks when I'm walking around, if you care about reining in this administration that has overreached, violated due process and the Constitution with their mass deportation agenda, if you care about the rising cost of groceries and housing and healthcare and energy and so much more, and you want to do something about it, you got to support Prop 50. If you care about the rule of law and defending the principles of our Constitution, you have to support Prop 50. It's the biggest check. It's the strongest guardrails against this out of control administration.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned redistricting, and obviously this is what Prop 50 is about. But Republicans will say, "Oh, this is the Democrats cheating, et cetera," right? This is not at all what the Democrats wanted. This was triggered by what they did in Texas. The Democrats have been the ones advocating for fair maps. Can you talk to that? And what would you say to a Republican who says, "Oh no, this is the Democrats cheating," or people in the state of California who think, "I can't vote yes on this because this isn't fair"?
Yeah, so be absolutely crystal clear on this. The only reason we are moving on Proposition 50 is in response to the abuse of power in Texas. Again, at the behest of Donald Trump. And by the way, whether California would have responded to this or not, Republicans were going to stop in Texas. They saw 5 potential seats to pick up in Texas, but as we've seen in recent days and weeks, they're also looking to redistrict and are redistricting in Missouri and in Indiana and in Ohio. They're going to stop nowhere in their desperate efforts to cling to power. What California did is start at the very beginning. They're going into Texas to try to rig the system. As much as we support independent redistricting and all that stuff, the stakes are simply too high. The threat of this administration and its impact, the devastating impact on working families is too high. We can't sit idly by and just watch it happen. We have to respond. We have to fight back. And so, yes, it took a lot, not just for the California legislature, but Governor Newsom and the California congressional delegation to support this new map and take it to the voters for the voters to decide whether we push back on Trump with Proposition 50. The early polls are good, but as we've said earlier, there's a lot of money that doesn't like what's happening, and there's going to be no less than $150 million, maybe $200 million against Proposition 50, including Speaker Mike Johnson's PAC money coming into California to try to defeat Proposition 50. That's what we're up against. So let me take this opportunity for anybody tuning in, however you can support, if you can't support, we need your support because we're up against a lot of big money who knows that California's move here is the big check against the Trump agenda. So we need your help, volunteerism and activism on the ground, a financial contribution if you can.
Awesome. We'll leave it there. Thank you both for joining. Very much appreciated. I should also note that we are coming up fast on our second milestone of $200,000. So if you have not yet donated, please head over to yeson50live.com. I also want to take this opportunity to throw right up here on this screen, if I can, a map of what the current donations look like thus far from this whole effort. We've been going for just over an hour right now. So do we have the ability to throw the map on the screen? Let's see if we do. If not, it's all good. We can get to it at the next break. But I do want to note, here we go. I think we do have the map on the screen right here. Let's see if we can see it. Yep, looks good. So that is a map of the donations thus far. I want to note that we have donations from all 50 states across the entire country. We have people that have opted to help our effort here in California across the entire country, and that's especially important because it goes to show the stakes, not just for the state that I'm in right now, the state of California, where we do have an effort to push back on this blatant power grab by Republicans, but it goes to show that the rest of the country is waking up to what's happening. And they all recognize the extent to which California is so necessary to neutralize what the Republicans are doing in Texas and Missouri and Indiana and Ohio and Florida. So this is how we fight back. And look, there are a million reasons to have said no. It's difficult, it's too soon. Again, the list goes on and on, but the reality is that we had people here in California between Gavin Newsom and the California congressional delegation and the state legislature who recognized the urgency of this moment, decided to fight fire with fire and actually move this effort forward. But that's only half the battle. It's going to take all of us to actually pitch in and make sure that this thing passes on November 4th. And the way that we get to all of those people across this state who aren't paying attention right now is to make sure that we can raise some money, grassroots funds, and get in front of them on TV, on their computers, in their mailboxes, whatever it may be. So even if you can only donate a few bucks, every little bit helps. Yeson50live.com. Okay, very excited right now to be introducing our two next speakers. We have Harry Sisson, who is one of the most recognizable faces of the next generation of progressive content creators. He is doing the hard work, getting out there every single day on TikTok and vertical platforms and on YouTube, reaching Americans where they're consuming their news. It is so important, so grateful for his voice. And we also have Representative Ray Reid, who serves Missouri's 83rd House District, representing communities across the St. Louis region. He was one of the 3 Missouri Democrats to stage a sit-in protesting the state's new maps for several days and nights. So I just want to say on behalf of me and everybody watching, thank you for the sacrifice that you have made. Looking forward to your guys' conversation here.
Thank you. Well, Brian, that was such a kind introduction. I will say I take tremendous issue with the assertion that New Jersey has the best pizza, especially when there's this fantastic city across the river called Manhattan. Dollar pizza on every corner, you can't go wrong. But look, the pizza debate can lie. We are here for a very important reason, which is Donald Trump has a tendency to cheat. when he is backed into a corner and a position he put himself in, he will do whatever it takes to cheat. As Senator Alex Padilla correctly said, in 2020, when he lost the election pretty soundly, he called up the Republicans in Georgia and said, find me 11,000 votes. Fast forward to 2025, Donald Trump is calling up Republican states across the country saying, find me a couple of seats. Texas, find me some seats. Help me out. Trump knows his agenda is wildly unpopular. His big, ugly bill is wildly unpopular. He knows it cannot stand on the merits, and so he's trying to cheat the game. And the really concerning thing about all of this is that Donald Trump is not just stopping at Texas. He's looking at Republican states across the country. And Representative Reed is in one of those states, Missouri, where Republicans right now are actively discussing redistricting. And that's why it's so important to support Gavin Newsom's effort in California and Proposition 50. And Representative Reed, I just got to know, what's it like in Missouri with the threat of redistricting? How are you responding? How are your constituents responding to this threat?
Yeah, we are kind of fired up and ready to go. A few years ago in 2018, Republicans did a similar thing. They pushed through their terrible right to work, or so-called right to work mandate across the state of Missouri, and the citizens responded. We got organized, we got labor involved, and we put forth a ballot initiative to reverse what they did. And we're doing that same thing here again with these bullshit bills bullshit maps that they put together. We have now until December 11th to gather 107 signatures for a citizens referendum on their map. And you better believe we are working our butts off right now with our coalition partners to gather more than all the signatures we need to make sure that we stop this map in its tracks. And like California, let the citizens decide what they want their maps to look like.
And look, that is so fantastic to hear. I think I speak for everybody when I say we greatly appreciate the work you're doing. I'm curious, you're a young guy. What's your and a young guy in a Republican state, I might add. What's your message to all these different Democratic governors out there who are not pursuing redistricting and responding to Texas in the same way that Governor Gavin Newsom is doing in California?
Yeah, the time to fight back is right now. We are so grateful for leaders like Governor Gavin Newsom in California, along with the entire California legislature, Speaker Rivas and their entire team there. We're stepping up to the plate when the time's needed. I know our friends to the east of Missouri and Illinois are working on some things. In New York, they're talking about what they can do. The time to fight back is right now. And please, whether you're an elected official or just someone who cares deeply about this issue, make sure you are registered to vote. Find your space, find where you can be of use to this cause, and get organized. Grab a clipboard, grab some friends, and hit the streets. It's time right now to fight back.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this map that Brian Tyler Cohen just showed on the screen. It shows donations coming in from almost all 50 states, if not 50 states. It's incredibly impressive that people coast to coast are seeing the significance of this moment. What do you think that speaks to, that people in liberal states, Republican states across the country are contributing to this cause and getting involved?
I think it shows that, although Democrats didn't pick this fight, we're also not afraid of it, and we're all ready to pitch in wherever we can to be a part of this fight. When we were on the House floor, we had folks from all across the country giving us calls, from Kamala Harris to Governor Newsom's team to Chris Coons. Just the Democrats all across the country just kind of wrapping their arms around us and saying, we got your back. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now in California. That's why we're on this call. It's because we've got Californians back, and we're going to make sure that the people have the last say on this one.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you're an elected representative. You've put in the hard work to get there. And I think you also have a tremendous understanding of what people are saying. So what are you hearing from your constituents right now? Are they calling your office? Are they calling friends of yours in states around the country? Like, what's the message that you're hearing most from folks that you represent and just broadly?
More than anything, we're seeing people kind of wake up, even in a red state like Missouri. Republicans, I think, know that they've gone too far. Although they are, let me be clear, Republicans in Missouri and around the country and states like Texas are cowards for bending the knee to Donald Trump instead of upholding the duties of their offices. But we're seeing folks get fired up, get ready to go, mobilizing, putting their names on the ballot, organizing with friends, finding out how they can help with our citizens referendum. We're really seeing something that we haven't seen since, from my experience, 2008, which I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I'm in a different position than you are. I make content online every day, and my comment sections, my DMs, everything for the past couple of months since Texas and Donald Trump started their cheating effort has been filled with, what can we do? How can we get involved? How can we get our representatives to listen to us? And I think you're exactly right that there's this national awakening happening right now. And I'm also really happy to report that I'm even hearing this from Republicans. People in my personal life and online are saying, hey, this ain't right. What Donald Trump is trying to do with mid-decade redistricting is unprecedented and a blatant power grab. And that is exactly why this is so important. And I do want to plug the website. You've heard it many times tonight. It's yeson50live.com. The amazing thing about this website is you can contribute to this effort to help Gavin Newsom fight back, but you can also register to vote. This effort, this Prop 50 does not pass unless people get out there to vote and make their voices heard. So please go to that website, please donate, register to vote, do everything that you can. And I know, Representative Reed, you know the significance of registering to vote and actually making their voices heard. So please, from all of us who have spoken tonight, go do that. And let's get this job done. I think we're close, and the amount of money raised is just fantastic.
That's right. That's right. It's so important, because this really is, the fight of our lifetimes. Everyone's talking about 2028. We don't get to 2028 if we don't deal with 2026 first. So please make sure you're registered to vote. Talk to 10 friends. Make sure they're registered to vote. Because I promise, when you can increase the voter turnout by 20 to 50 votes, precinct by precinct by precinct, that makes all the difference in the election. So please make sure you're registered to vote. And when you go donate, give $1 more, give $2 more, whatever you can, because I promise that makes all the difference too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Turnout is everything. Turnout is everything.
Thank you guys both. Representative Reed, Harry, thank you both so much for helping us here tonight. I should note that we have passed, let's see, we're coming up on $250,000 in about an hour of doing this. So thank you all to the folks who have donated. If you've not yet donated, please help this effort. Even a few bucks goes a long way. Okay, very excited to introduce our next duo here. We have David Pakman, who's one of the OGs on YouTube. He was one of the very first people who I watched when I started tuning into politics. He paved the way for people like me to come onto YouTube and start making social media content. And my goal has been to do exactly what I've seen David do, which is to pay it forward and make way for the next generation to do the same. So very excited to have you here, David. And I think we have Congressman Eric Swalwell as well. Is that correct? There he is. So he represents California's 14th congressional district. He has been one of the most vocal members of Congress that we have, not just for fighting back against Republican overreach, but especially when it comes to really important issues like gun violence, where we've seen a conspicuous lack of leadership. So thank you, Congressman, for taking on these issues, especially these important issues where other folks are failing to step up. Looking forward to watching you guys' conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure. And hey, man, I'm so proud of you and what you've built, Brian. We've needed to be in the space that you're in for a long time, and it's making a difference and it's breaking through.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Congressman, great to see you. I'll just say a few things, and then I really want to hear from you. I think a lot of us are here because we just realize instinctively that something is very, very wrong here. We see this unprecedented power grab happening from Republicans, upending centuries of tradition by using force. We're seeing what's happening in Texas. As far as the creator space, I don't remember any time in all the years I've been doing this where independent media has had an environment that is so hostile from the people in power and from the government. They're doing this with regard to what's happening in Texas because they realize, and Trump realizes, if Democrats take the House in 2026, that's it for Trump's agenda. I mean, he instantly is a lamer duck than he already is today. And so if these Republican maps can really control that election, they could end up keeping control of the House, even if colloquially they lose the midterms. And so it's not a coincidence that they've made it clear they're willing to burn down the system if it's what it takes to stay in power. And so I know that's, Congressman, why we on the creator side do this every single day. Right. We know that you and other people are also fighting from inside Washington, D.C. Right. I think the good news is we have here something tangible and tractable, which folks in my audience have been asking for a long time. Is there something we can get involved in? Is there something I can volunteer, donate to today? And I want to hear from you how you see this and how your colleagues see this as an opportunity to not wait certainly until 2028, but also not to wait to have 2026 stolen either.
So I'm going to start where I'm going to end. And I see that the great Martin Sheen is going to join us a little bit later. And I think as a storyteller and an artist, he would agree that that's how you should always tell a story. And the Republicans, they see it the same way. So let's work backward a little bit. Republicans know that on November 4, 2026, when we go to the ballot boxes and marshal all of the support across the country and we win the midterms, they know that it's over, that this era of having masked agents pull our friends and neighbors off the streets and send them to faraway places, it's over, that this era of taking away health care from people who need it the most, it's over. This era of doing nothing about rising grocery prices is over. And the tariffs that the president has put so idiotically on allies of ours who produce so many goods that we need, that it's over. So that they know that if Democrats are in the majority, all of that chaos stops, all of that cruelty stops, because a couple of things happen. We have the power of the purse, so we decide, how to fund the government. We have the oversight ability to look at everything that they've done. So Elon Musk and Doge and the data theft that took place and the Social Security numbers that were breached, we look at all of that. And so they know that it's over in a sense. And most importantly, we have the subpoena power. And so they will have to immediately shift from, doing and carrying out this cruel agenda of Donald Trump to thinking about 2028. And one last piece of this, David, I want to point out, our best chance at making sure that there are free and fair elections in 2028, in the next presidential election, is to win the midterms in 26, because it gives us the ability, to have that oversight and make sure that they're not doing everything possible to steal the election.
Well, this is where people in the audience come in. Of course, check out yesonfiftylive.com. And if it's a few dollars or a little more than a few dollars, everything is helping to get to this incredible goal that we're pushing for right now. You can also find out how to volunteer for this effort at yesonfiftylive.com. And in addition to that, it is National Voter Registration Day. And Congressman, it seems like every election cycle we have this conversation. If we could just get 3% more turnout from 18 to 29-year-olds, it's over. And sometimes there's a little more turnout, sometimes there's a little less turnout. But one of the incredible opportunities in the United States is that because voter turnout is habitually so low in midterm elections and in off-year elections, that movement that can inspire just a few percentage more points of turnout has an outsized opportunity to really win big. And so the voter registration part of this, I think, is huge.
It's so important, David, because it also gives us a jump on the midterms, right? And so it's exercising our democratic muscles, so to speak. It's giving agency to people who have never participated before. And it's not a dry run, because there are real stakes for what happens, this upcoming special election. But it essentially, it's a playoff game before the Super Bowl next year. I also just want to, put in perspective what it means to win, aside from, getting the 5 seats and countering what Texas is doing. I think in politics, just like sports, momentum begets momentum. So think about this. We go to the ballot box on November 4 to pass Prop 50 in California, and we win. And Mikey Sherrill wins the governor's race in New Jersey. And Abigail Spanberger wins the governor's race in Virginia. And that's a flip for us, going from red to blue. And the 2 Democratic judges on the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court win. Those are 4 big races across the country. If we sweep those 4 and we can win each of those, that's momentum, baby. That's going into the midterms with wind at our backs. It's confidence that we need, a boost that's so needed after the demoralizing election in 2024. And also on the other side, what this will mean on November 4 is vulnerable Republicans in the House and the Senate will think twice about whether they even want to run for re-election. So it could put even more seats in play. It would demoralize their donor base, it would demoralize their voters, and it would create a sense of inevitability. Not that we can take it for granted, we're still going to have to work for it, but psychologically beating them down and making them question whether they can even hold the midterms, that's what winning on November 4 is all about.
Well, the opposition knows what's at stake. They are able to pour nearly unlimited money into trying to defeat Prop 50. They know if they can get away with Texas but stop California, it puts them in a position to take that momentum that you're talking about. So make sure to check out yesonfiftylive.com. You can learn about volunteering. You can donate. You can learn about voter registration. Congressman, great to see you. Great to talk to you. And Brian, thank you so much for organizing.
I stand between you guys and Martin Sheen, and I'm not going to get in the way of that because I'm so grateful that he and also his co-star Dulé Hill is going to be are going to be on next. So thank you to both of them for engaging in this battle.
Awesome. David, Congressman, appreciate you being a part of this. And with no further ado, I know that a lot of folks are very excited. So I'm going to introduce our next guest here. We've got Tim Fullerton. Tim helped start this show, I should note first and foremost. So a big shout out to Tim. He also had a practice session, we can say, in launching White Dudes for Harris, helped that gain prominence, and he served many roles in the Obama administration. And importantly, he started the Find Out podcast, which I'm a huge fan of, and we need more folks in independent media, so I'm grateful that Tim and his co-hosts have jumped into this space. And now we've got members of the West Wing cast, Dulé Hill and Martin Sheen. I know that for so many people watching right now, you both are the platonic ideal of what politics can be. And most importantly, thank you for staying engaged and involved, because it would be really easy to just, show up on set, do your thing, make a great show, and kind of step back and fall back into, just having been an actor. But the fact is that you're using your voices now for to stay engaged in this political process. And so, on behalf of myself and everybody watching, thank you so much for doing that. And looking forward to the conversation here.
It's my pleasure to be here. I think it's important for all of us to actively stay involved in any way that we can. Because when we take our eye off the ball, we take our eye off the prize, then you see what can happen, and it can happen swiftly. When I saw the results of the election last year, I knew that there would be challenges. I knew that there would be an assault on our liberties, but I could not fathom what I'm seeing now. It really breaks my heart when I see our loss of humanity. I see how we are going to the extremes, and we are lacking the ability to find common ground. I mean, we are 1 year in, and these are trying times. And the only way that I feel that we can even have some type of backstop to this onslaught that is happening is by winning in the midterms. And I truly believe, I'll say to myself often, and I say to others, that democracy works when we, the people, work it. That's how democracy stays alive. And the only way that the best way for us to fight this battle for the soul of our nation, for the character of who we are, is at the ballot box. That's what we have to do. And I truly believe that all things being equal, if we were given the opportunity to freely vote the way we have, then it would be a no-brainer that the Democrats would win. There would be balance put back into the system. And that would be that. But I do believe that also that these extremist politicians are very aware that they cannot win the battle on their merits. They cannot win re-election on their merits. So the same people who a few years ago were crying about a stolen election and supported people who really, acted in a way that was not supportive of our democracy are now actually trying to steal an election. They're not even doing it in the shadows. They're being very overt about what they are doing. But what really, I guess, affects me is that they're taking away the voice of the people. It's one thing if you were going to do this redistricting plan and you were going to bring it to the citizens, That's how democracy works. Let people talk about it. If you were doing it that way and then the people voted for that, I would have nothing to say. But the fact that they're doing it in the dark rooms of the legislatures across the country, at least in Texas now, and attempting to do it in other places, that is where I think is a line too far. And I appreciate what the governor of California is doing, what the legislature here is doing by giving us the power to have our voice be heard, by giving us a way to be able to stand up for ourselves, and by giving us a pathway to be able to keep our democracy alive. And that's the main reason why I'm here, is to play my part. I always say, if I can get 1 billion people to move 1 billion stones, then we can move a mountain. And I think in this situation, if we can get people to get involved, to get engaged, to support Yes on 50 here in California, and to use their voice across the nation, I believe the Democrats will get back the House. And at that point, we can put some type of balance back into the system, because we've seen what happens when there's imbalance. And right now, it is all out of whack, and there's too much extremism happening in our politics right now. So that's why I'm here, and I'm always down to support in any way I can.
Well, thank you, Dulé. And it's all of that was really well said. And I think it's a really important thing that you mentioned, which is, Texas did this behind closed doors. The Trump administration called Governor Abbott's team and said, I need you to find 5 seats. He actually said it. I need you to find 5 seats for me. And then they did this unilaterally. And I think that that's why it's great that we're doing it, and the way Governor Newsom's doing it is the way to do it, with a people-powered movement. And so I want to turn. So I think everybody on this call probably would prefer our new next guest to actually be the president of the United States at this moment. We have Martin Sheen, who has, I think, played a president twice and has been a chief of staff once, and actually has been, I believe, arrested more times than Donald Trump, but for very good reasons, standing up for what's right. So, Martin Sheen, thank you. It is an honor to speak to you. I would love to hear from you about why voting yes on Prop 50 is so important.
Well, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. Yeah, Renee left the room. My engineer here is my daughter, who runs this machine. Frankly, I don't own a computer, and I don't even know how to turn it on if I did have one. So I'm counting on my family here, as Dulé well knows. Good to see you again, Dulé. Thank you
Always.
for including me in this effort. I've been involved in supporting liberal politics, democratic politics, specifically with the possible exception of John Lindsay when he ran for mayor in 1965 in New York. I supported him, but also that same year I supported Bobby Kennedy in his race for the U.S. Senate. And so this is not unusual for me to be involved in not just in democratic politics, but in peace and social justice issues, because I can't really separate them. What our governor here in California so bravely did was to stand up to the landslide of effort and lies that are pulling the Constitution and the Bill of Rights down the tubes. And so our effort is to put a stop to it and to retrieve as much as we possibly can. I've never seen it this bad in my life, frankly. And, we've been watching the opposition to Proposition 50 on every local channel we have, and some of the streamers as well, ads against us voting to vote no on 50. And their reasoning is that it's undemocratic to gerrymander here, and how dare we do this? Why we should stand up as patriotic Americans and stop this. There's not a mention of Texas or the possibility of Missouri or Ohio, God forbid, my home state, or Indiana. And so we have to, we can't always choose our fights. Very often we are called to fight in foreign lands with unfamiliar ground, and this is one of those times. We've never been in this situation before. I've watched this administration. I was watching Kash Patel being drilled by our good senator from California today, and I don't know if any of you saw the exchange between the two of them. It made the national news, but that level of ahead of the FBI or any of the other agencies is astonishing to me. there is no possible way that any of these people at the head of any of the cabinet ministries that we have right now would ever make it in any other administration but Donald Trump. And when they look at each other across the room, around in the cabinet room, and they look at each other, they don't see anyone on the other side, back and forth, that is better than they are, is more heroic, has more courage. They, in a real sense, I suspect they despise each other because there isn't anyone on the other side that is better than they are. And they are looking at the worst reflection of themselves. And they are reflecting the policy that we're seeing and that Dulé referred to about the scandalous masked bandits grabbing people off our streets in public and disappearing people. And you know, so often when people are at least in normal times, if you want to call it normal, when people were deported, they usually went back to the country they came from. Now they're being sent. Basically, they're being punished because very often they're being sent to countries that have you know, they're foreign to them. They don't have the same language, the same culture, and they are thousands and thousands of miles away from their true home. So, and this has become normal. We are what we're seeing. We saw that, you know, when the Marines marched through our downtown park, it was literally a walk in the park. There was no reason for them to be there. It is all that we're seeing is a reflection of a strong man trying to get a grip, and it's slipping out of his hands. Chicago stood up and said, no, please don't come here. And we're going to give you every reason why. We don't need you. We've got good law enforcement. We've got good sanitation care here. We've got good health care. You're not needed here. Please stay home. Look after your families and your states. And so we don't have any choice but to go in the direction that we're being called by Governor Newsom. And I dare say, and maybe I shouldn't say this offhand, but I think this move was his declaration for the White House. I think he's going to run, and more power to him, and he will have this to his credit. So I'm urging people that to deal with what we have, not with what we wish we had or what we had in the past, but what we have now, which is this opportunity to stop this basic thievery. You know, Thomas Paine said the rights of man are not given by the gracious hand of any state, but must be protected therein. And this is where we have to rise and embrace our Constitution and bring us all together with what really is at stake. We're facing an out of control, chaotic madman who wakes up every day and thinks of a different level of chaos, and his cabinet members, all the people in his administration pick up the lot and they carry it out, and they are all a reflection of him. But I think we're better than that. And I think we can build a better future, and we can end the chaos and end the despair and the feelings of that we don't have any power left. Look at Chicago. Just this week, the madman turned around and said, well, I guess I'm not welcome there. Let's find, oh, Memphis. Oh, yes, of course, Memphis. I can do well there. Well, let's see what happens. But what Governor Newsom has done here in California has struck a chord. It has lit a candle in this darkness. And I pray and hope that people see what's possible and that we can turn this thing around. And this is one very important issue for the whole country to look at and to follow. Yes, on 50. Please, God, yes.
Well said. And for those of you who haven't donated yet, which I don't know how you could not donate after listening to that, please go to yeson50live.com. Push us over the 300,000 mark. All of this money is coming from individuals giving $5, $10, $15, $20, and we are fighting against people who are writing $250,000 checks, $1 million checks. We are going to win this, and I think before we go, I just want to ask one more question for both of you. Is you gave us a little bit of hope there, And, I think the West Wing show was something that I watched in high school and then ended up going into politics and worked in the Obama administration and things like that. Leave us with something, Martin, you left us with something really hopeful and powerful. Dulé, I want to give it to you the last bit because I know we got to bounce because we've got Congressman Raskin and Congresswoman Crockett on, who, by the way, if we win this ballot initiative, they're going to be the ones subpoenaing, and they're the ones that are going to be asking questions of the Trump administration. So, Dulé, I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, I'll say this, the power is in our hands. There's nothing that, if a bunch of people get together, there's nothing that we cannot overcome. I said before, 1 billion people to move 1 billion stones, then we can move a mountain. And even in these dark times, when the cloud is hovering above, the clouds of extremism, the clouds of hate, the clouds of division, just beyond those storm clouds, the sun is always shining. So if we can just keep preaching, keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep our eyes on the prize, I know that we will be victorious. America always has, America will now today, and America always will in our tomorrow, as long as we stay engaged. So let's vote.
I would only add just very simply that fear is useless. Faith is necessary. Yes, on 50.
Awesome. We'll leave it there. I was
The
trying a
president
bit.
has spoken.
I was going to say, I was trying a bit where I was standing. You can't really see it in the Zoom, but I was about to say, in this building, when the president stands, nobody sits. Okay. What's next? That was also my nod to you. Thank you all for the time tonight. We appreciate it. And Tim, thank you so much.
Appreciate it too.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
All the best to everybody.
Best.
Very excited to have our next guests. We have Adam Mockler, who I could not be more grateful for Adam Mockler's voice in the independent media space. He's one of the biggest voices of Gen Z. He specializes in the rapid fire deconstruction of Republican arguments. If you've been on TikTok, Instagram Reels, on YouTube, you have seen Adam. And thank you so much for the hard work and being such a relentless voice for the left in this independent media space. I'm also very glad to introduce Congressman Ted Lieu and Congressman Jamie Raskin. Ted Lieu represents California's 36th congressional district. He was my congressman for a hot minute out here in California. He has been an outspoken opponent of the overreach of this administration, and also, I should note, someone who is arguably the first Democrat to embrace independent media. I'm sure if you were on Twitter in the OG days before it devolved into what it is now, you know who Ted Lieu is. So thank you for being an early supporter of this space. And of course, Congressman Jamie Raskin is from Maryland's 8th congressional district. There is no one more clear-eyed about the threats to democracy than Jamie Raskin. You have been an absolute hero for democracy for years and years and years. I know that if for so many of us watching, if we genuflect at the altar of anyone, it's you, Congressman. So looking forward to your conversation, and Adam, take it away.
Thank you for the kind words, Brian. I really want to pass it over to you guys because you guys will have unique takes on this, but from a really high level, a lot of the conversations I have with Republicans on this turn into this tit for tat on which party gerrymandered more, but it's not that. It's a lot simpler. Never in the history of the United States has a president requested for a governor to enact a mid-cycle redistricting with the intent of rigging the midterms in their favor. This is in between two census cycles, and this was intentionally done by Governor Abbott so that Donald Trump could win the midterms. Now, what Governor Newsom is doing is three things. It's proportional to what Texas is doing, it's temporary, and it's democratic. It's going up for a vote, and that's exactly why we're doing this today, so that you guys can help us spread awareness, help us raise more money. And I'd like to pass it over to Representative Ted Lieu. Can you explain the stakes and why it's important to vote yes on Prop 50?
Thank you so much, Adam, and it's such an honor to be here with the amazing Jamie Raskin as well. And I know, Brian, you had mentioned our Twitter early on, so I just want to read this text message on Twitter, direct message, July 1st, 2020, from Brian to me. He says, "Hi, Congressman. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in being interviewed for my podcast and YouTube channel, and you know that you typically get 1 million views. You now have over 4 billion views, so congratulations to what you've built." Now, Adam, to answer your question, it is so important, first of all, to support Prop 50, because not only do we fight back against Texas, we do better. Texas created 5 leading Republican seats. California responds, and we create 5 leading Republican seats in this map. But there's also an additional 5 districts that are really pretty tough for incumbents. They're known as frontline districts. we strengthen all of them. So this is essentially a map that affects 10 districts. So it actually isn't proportional. It is better. We are fighting back in a better way. And it's also better in the sense that this is the most democratic redistricting ever, because literally the voters are going to be putting the map in.
Representative Raskin, can you build on that?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having me, Adam. Hello to my buddy Brian Tyler Cohen. Hey, the praise comes right back at you guys for what California is doing here. The whole country is looking up to you right now because of what you're doing, showing exactly how to fight back against this extreme, Hunger Games style gerrymander that they've imposed on us in Texas. Ted gives us some reason to be hopeful that we're not only fighting back, we're fighting back in a more nimble and agile way. But let me just say 2 points. One, Adam, relates to what you began with. Some people are saying, well, two wrongs don't make a right. And I just don't know whether we should just gerrymander just because they did it. We should rise above it. Okay, now look, I want everybody to be 1,000% clear about this. We have been trying to abolish partisan gerrymandering in Congress for more than a decade. Look at the For the People Act. The very first plank is to delete partisan gerrymandering all across the country and to impose nonpartisan redistricting commissions in every state. And you know who opposed it? Every Republican. And you know who voted for it? Every Democrat. We've been trying to get America out of this nightmare where the politicians choose the voters before the voters choose the politician for many, many years. But the Republicans thrive on the most anti-democratic mechanisms, whether we're talking about voter suppression tactics, gerrymandering, right-wing judicial activism, manipulation of the Electoral College, insurrections and coups, you name it. Okay, so we tried to get out of it. They said no. Then, as you said, Adam, they took us from this every 10-year brutal rugby game, which is partisan redistricting and gerrymandering, again, which is more to their advantage than ours because they control today, it's either 27 or 28 state legislatures in their entirety, and we have, I think, 13 or 14. So they can get a lot more out of it, which is why they're wed to it, but we were conditioned to doing it, okay, every 10 years. Now they're saying we're going to do it every 2 years. We're going to do it in the middle of the decade, just so, as Donald Trump says, we can squeeze 5 more seats out of Texas. Those are our colleagues he's talking about, right? That's like Greg Casar, the head of the Progressive Caucus. That's, Lloyd Doggett, who's a great progressive from Texas who served for several decades, Vicente Gonzalez, Henry Cuellar, Al Green. They're targeting specific people. And you know what? They've already, since Texas, done it in Missouri and Kansas. They went, the other day, they called a special session to eliminate one of our colleagues, the great Congressman Cleaver from Kansas City. And then they're calling one up in Kansas. To go after Sharice Davids. So they are absolutely dead set on doing this. Now, some people think, well, the moral thing, the principled thing is to just let them do it, and we'll stick to the fair redistricting we've got in California or whatever. Nonsense. There's nothing moral, ethical, or principled about laying down and letting authoritarians roll all over us so they can gerrymander our elections and control our government in perpetuity. On the contrary, every principle of political morality demands that we do whatever we can to fight within the existing rules that they have set up in order to win. And we're going to win next year. We're going to do it. And I just want to say one more thing about California, because our oldest daughter is now living out in California, and I'd like to come out and visit my friends out there. And I woke up one morning, I realized I just woke up in a state that has I think it's 41 million or 42 million people. Okay. And I looked it up. There are 20 states, the 20 smallest states have less population than California. So you wake up in California, you've got 2 U.S. senators, 2 fine U.S. senators, but people waking up in all of those other states, Nebraska, Rhode Island, Iowa, South Dakota, Kansas, all those states together have 40 US senators with less population than California. They have 38 more senators than you. So there's already a major structural imbalance that's built into the fabric of the Constitution. But I want to salute the people of California who have found a way to have profound importance and significance in the congressional elections in 2026, just by fighting back against all of the tyrants and authoritarians who think that they can steal elections from us. I yield back to you, Adam.
Some great points, Representative Raskin. Amazing points. If you want to help us fight back, go to yeson50live.com. And one of the most crucial points you made there is that when Democrats were in power, we tried two times to ban gerrymandering nationwide. Republicans blocked it. Then when they got into power, they decided to enact the most aggressive, the most radical redistricting we've ever seen, where they splice up Target with such surgical precision that it wins Donald Trump the midterms. They want to rig it, hypothetically, but if you go to yesonlive50.com, yeson50live.com, you can donate. Representative Liu, can I ask you one final question here? One of the reasons why I think people are really getting behind this movement is not only using the mechanisms we have to fight back against Trump's authoritarianism, but also just being assertive as Democrats and fighting back after it feels like the past decade, Trump has over and over gotten one over on us. What do you think about Democrats being more aggressive, going out there and really fighting back?
We actually should, and Prop 50 gives us that chance to do so. This is not something that's next year or 3 years from now. This is literally in less than 2 months, and you can affect what's going to happen in the Trump administration in less than 2 months simply by donating to yesn50live.com. You can also do phone banking. You can go walk door to door, but you can take action right now to fight back against authoritarianism that we're seeing with the Trump administration. And I, do want to end on some words of hope. I watched the last panel ending on some words of hope. So when I served active duty in the U.S. Air Force, I was at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. There's a beautiful Rosa Parks museum there. And I encourage all of you to visit if you ever go to Montgomery. And I've now gone there twice, the last time with the late, amazing John Lewis. And I remember finishing the tour of the museum and thinking, Rosa Parks will not have been surprised by the Trump administration or President Trump. She experienced far worse in her lifetime, but she never could have imagined Barack Obama winning the presidency twice. She never could have imagined Vice President Kamala Harris, and she never could have imagined where we're going to go next year, which is Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. And that happens if you support yesnprop50live.com.
Thank you very much, representatives.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Appreciate everybody being here. And I should note we are just minutes away from passing $300,000 in this Yes on 50 campaign. A quick note for those who are just tuning in right now. The reason that we're focused so much on trying to raise money here is because big moneyed interests across the country who are aligned with this Republican Party are going to pour money into the state because they know that if they can neutralize what's happening in California with this map redraw, then that clears the runway for them to be able to really have a huge advantage in all of the other states. And we're seeing that they're well on their way. They've gerrymandered these maps in Texas, got 5 seats there. They've done so in Missouri, they got a seat there. They're on their way to doing it in Ohio and Indiana and Florida, and that's just the beginning. There is nothing stopping them from taking an especially aggressive and forward-leaning posture with trying to add as many seats as they possibly can, all in an effort to answer the clarion call set forth by Trump. So this is the whole ballgame right here, what's happening in California. But our job, knowing that we now have the great fortune of being able to vote on this thing on November 4th, is to let everybody in the state know what's happening, know what's at stake. And that starts with raising as much money as we can, grassroots donations, even if it's $1, $5, $10, whatever you can afford, so that we can get in front of as many Californians as possible. That means get on their TV screens, get on their computer screens, get on their phone screens, and get in their mailboxes. But it costs money to do so. And so very grateful for the people who are watching right now, the people who are tuned into politics. But now comes the point where we have to all pitch in so that we can reach the people who aren't paying attention, who may not be focused on politics on a daily basis. And while that sounds great for their mental health, the reality is that we need everybody's buy-in here. in pushing this effort forward. So if you haven't yet donated, please go to yeson50live.com and give whatever you can. Okay, very excited to introduce our next two. We have Olivia Juliana. I first learned of Olivia when Matt Gaetz tried to mock her online, and she used his mockery to raise over $2 million for abortion rights. So what a badass move, and he's out of Congress, and so you got the last laugh. Juliana is a political activist, abortion rights advocate, and a strategist from Texas, so knows firsthand about all the bullshit that's going on right now. She was formerly the director of politics and government affairs at Gen Z for Change, and she's a dear friend of mine. Very happy to have you. And of course, a congresswoman who needs no introduction. Very excited to be introducing Representative Jasmine Crockett. She is one of my favorite people in elected office. She is a badass, a fighter, an attorney, one of the most dynamic and interesting and engaging voices that we have on the left. Could not be more excited to listen to your conversation here.
Thank you, Brian. Well, Congresswoman Crockett, it sure seems like everyone's got something to say about our home, now don't they?
Yeah, for good reason, though. It is a hot ass mess. But I am so thankful for California, and not only for the leadership, real leadership that we need in this moment, but also for the people. You know, this is something that is going to be people-led, people-driven, and ultimately the people will decide. And with everything that I've seen about the pushback that we are delivering to this regime that is currently in power, I am believing that the people of California are woke enough to know that it is time to fight fire with fire. And what that means for those in the back that don't understand my language, what that means is that if Texas is going to redistrict and gerrymander and also silence the voices of Black and brown communities, that California will also make sure that they give more voice to their constituents in the form of Prop 50. And so this is just in response to make sure that those bad policies that they are currently signing up for, that they actually have some accountability, because that's what democracy looks like. The final thing that I'll say, so that you can go on with your question, is that today was very interesting. It's always interesting on the Hill or a hot ass mess, either way you want to look at it. But nevertheless, so we're there and we were voting on a rule for a bill. And I was like, what's taking so long? Because I was ready to go debate the next thing. I just knew it was going to pass. They were going to vote it. But it wasn't. It wasn't passing. And in fact, this rule was going down and there were like 6 Republicans that voted with the Democrats. So I was like, well, who are the 6 Republicans? Well, of the 6, I think 3 or 4 were out of California. So we can see that even the threat of actually holding them accountable has made them start to shift how they're voting. In fact, they were able to get enough to switch over so that they could go ahead and pass the rule. But one of the loudest kind of upset people, Kevin Kiley, he did not change his vote because he plans to run. He knows it's going to be an uphill battle. And now he believes that he should be held accountable for how he votes. But my question is, bro, where have you been? You should have been voting in the interest of your constituents anyway. So I'll just leave it there. Right now, even without this thing going to the ballot, they are having an impact.
Well, I'll say this, you know, behind me, I have portraits of Ann Richards and Barbara Jordan. And if you're watching and you don't know who they are, look them up. And it's because of women like this and women like you. I'm glad that you're on my side, because I was at the public redistricting hearings that were held here in Texas about these maps. I was at the one at the state capitol and I was at the one in Houston. And so I sat through 10 hours of public testimony from Texans all over this state who sat there and begged for our Republican lawmakers to have a conscience and to do the right thing. And they sat there, and I'll be honest with y'all, they didn't care. They didn't care. They had made their minds up before they walked into that room. And I think that you are the most uniquely positioned person in the country to really give people insight into what the Texas legislature looks like, what Congress looks like, and what this means for the rest of the country. Because not only are you a member of Congress from Texas, you had your district redistricted, but you were also a member of the Texas legislature. So what is the big picture here that people may not be understanding, and why is Texas so important in this conversation?
Yeah, that's a very good point. First of all, my favorite organization is the Heritage Foundation. And usually I feel like Texas becomes the crash dummy for every single bad type of legislation that they want to try out throughout the South. And so this is no different, right? As it's already been laid out by my colleagues, that they started in Texas, but they were definitely never planning to end in Texas. And if anybody believes that there's something that California did that made them say, well, now we've got to do more, no. This was always their plan. The plan was to start in Texas, but then it was to move on to Missouri. It was to move on to Indiana. They even were trying to go after Clyburn in South Carolina. They're planning to go after Florida. They are trying to do this any and everywhere that they think they can get away with it. And so they wanted to test it out in Texas. That's number one. Number two, we literally have people that are elected to office that are supposed to represent the interests of the people that put them into office. And as we both sat through hearings, because I attended more than one hearing myself, you know, it was interesting to have Representative Vasut, who was leading those field hearings and leading the redistricting, my classmate to the Texas House, pretend that he had no recollection of anything that took place in 2021. Now, listen, I've never professed to have the best memory, but I can remember like yesterday being on the floor, arguing with the Republicans, telling them that we had grown the state by 95% people of color. So the idea that we got 2 new seats because of the growth that Texas experienced, where we added over 4 million people over the last decade once we completed our census, and ultimately we got 2 new Anglo seats. That's that Republican math. That is that Republican math, right? These were Anglo majority seats that they ended up creating. And they're just like, yeah, okay, it worked out. We added 180,000 Anglos in a decade. Each congressional seat is 766,000 people. So you tell me, in fact, that is a microcosm of what they are doing right now. You tell me how 180,000 people end up with 2 seats where they are the majority and the seats are 766,000 people. That is what they are doing. They are not only doing Donald Trump's bidding, but it's at the expense of so many communities that have already been disenfranchised. Texas has over 4 million African Americans, more African Americans than any other state. We had 5 African Americans that had been elected to Congress. When Colin Allred ended up running for the Senate, he was replaced by a non-African American, which is perfectly fine. We then ended up down to 4 African Americans, okay? Now what they're saying is we're gonna cut that into 2. You'll only have an opportunity to elect Al Green or whoever wins the 18th. And really what they're trying to do is set it up to where it's most likely me or Mark Vesey in the Dallas area. So you explain to me how on God's green earth, in a state in which Anglos were not growing at all, and we know that if we look at which group has the vast majority, not the vast majority, but has the plurality of representation, it's actually Latinos in the state of Texas. Latinos have the largest demographic in the entire state. Do they have the largest demographic of opportunities to elect people to Congress? Absolutely not. In fact, we are a majority minority state. We are 60-40. Yet somehow, after these maps were done, we're looking at having less minorities being able to choose their representation. So I want to say that this is bigger than my state, your state. This is about us as the United States and what it is that we are fighting for. There is only one side that is willing to stand up to this regime. There is only one side that is willing to conduct investigations. There is only one side that is willing to hold their incompetency and their feet to the fire. There's only one side. And so while people haven't started to feel the effects of being kicked off their health care, they're about to. While people may not have fully felt the effects of the increases in their utility bills, they're about to. While people already know that these tariffs are already hitting pretty hard, to the extent that they are shutting down our small businesses, and our farm bankruptcies are up 55 or 58%. Don't remember which one. Already, our farmers are filing for bankruptcy. Yo, like, we are in a crisis, and it is because the Republicans don't have a backbone. So it's time to make sure that we show them that the Democrats are ready to fight. So that means that California, we need you in this moment. We need your dollars, we need your time, and we absolutely need your vote.
Yeah, and I'll close this out with this. In a perfect world, we don't have to do mid-decade redistricting. In a perfect world, partisan gerrymandering is banned. But also in a perfect world, women aren't losing their ability to have children because they're going into sepsis. And children in Texas are having books banned in their schools. These are the things that would happen in a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. We live in reality. And so if you're not sure if you're voting on this for you in California and how this benefits you, well, it benefits a lot of people, and it benefits people like me, young people who live in Texas, where this is our reality every single day. And so you have a chance and an opportunity to not just set yourself up and your future for success, but for young people like me in this state of over 30 million people who just want the chance to build our own American dream.
Perfectly put. Thank you both. I appreciate you being on. Olivia, Representative Crockett, thank you both for being here. And just one more reminder, this is something that I've done over the last few years, is kind of beg and plead for Democrats to be able to fight. And we have an opportunity here where we actually do have Democrats who are fighting back in California. And other governors and other states are watching what happens right now. And if we want other states, other governors to be able to step up in this existential fight, not just for the Democratic Party, but for democracy, then the reality is that we need to make sure that this works. We need to make sure that there is an incentive structure for other people to say, hey, if we put our necks on the line too, we know that our base is going to show up. We know that donors are going to show up. We know that the grassroots are going to show up. And so this is our opportunity right here to literally put our money where our mouth is, show some support for the spine that we're seeing from these California Democrats. So if you haven't yet donated to this effort, please go to yeson50live.com. Give a few bucks. Every little bit helps. We are fast on our way to $400,000 in just a couple of hours here. This is we're definitely hoping to get as close as we can to $1 million tonight. So every bit helps. Thank you so much. Okay, very excited to introduce our next two guests. We have a dear friend of mine, Jack Cocciarella, who is a progressive political commentator, and I know he's laughing because I'm having a lot of trouble saying his last name. It's the first time I actually ever said his last name out loud. But in my
Nailed
defense,
it, Brian.
In my defense, you guys look at COCCHIARELLA and try to do that.
You nailed
any
it.
help.
It just means you love me.
That's it. I do. He is everywhere online. I am so grateful for his voice in this independent media space. He is one of the people who gets it beyond everybody else. So Jack, thank you so much for the work that you're doing on a daily basis, helping make our independent media ecosystem stronger and stronger every single day. And now we have our first Gen Z member of Congress, Congressman Maxwell Frost. Congressman, my only hope is that the next generation of Democrats, which I hope we see start to happen in a big way in 2026, that they look a lot like you. So thank you for being fearless. Thank you for being outspoken. Thank you for being a leader, not just among folks in your generation, but in the party more broadly. So go ahead. I'll let you guys take it away from here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. You're an inspiration to us all. And maybe we're breaking a little bit of news here. I think I said this in our last interview, but I am with my member of Congress. So that makes me very excited. We know the facts of this case. We know the facts of what's happening right now with this administration. We are seeing a rise in a crisis of affordability. That's a fact. There's more law breaking under this administration than ever before. We know it's a fact that Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, they want to disenfranchise Black and brown voters around the country. But I want to talk about feelings real quick. Congressman, how would you feel to make this guy right here very, very, very sad? How would that make you feel? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, I think it is really important. People know it make me feel amazing. And this is actually part of the reason we need to win the majority, because I promise you that one of the first people to receive a subpoena will be Stephen Miller.
Hell yeah.
This guy is one of the most evil people, not just in government, but in this country. And we need to hold him accountable as well.
And his suits, they don't fit at all. He looks terrible. I think it's because like the fabric is repelled by him. Like there's just got to be something about Stephen Miller. I also just looking at him. We don't need to like, trash him personally, but I think we can. I bet he just doesn't smell great either. But of course, Republicans aren't just focused on Texas. This fight has spread, or I guess it's not a fight. We're taking on the fight. What they're doing is a little bit different, but we certainly know that it wants to spread across the country. Ron DeSantis, certainly someone not new to falling in line with Donald Trump and getting embarrassed because of it. How are we going to make sure that this is a tone-setting moment in California, telling the rest of Republicans across the country, hey, if you, I don't want to say it, you fuck around, you find out?
Well, yeah, and for people who don't know, of course, they're moving forward with Texas. They're trying to figure out other places they can do this as well. They're moving forward with this in Florida as well. And we have polled it across the entire state. Democrats, Republicans, independents come out when they're asked, are you in favor of the state of Florida redistricting to help Donald Trump get a majority? They say no, every single time. And so part of what we're looking to do in our state is make sure that people understand what they're trying to do. And you brought up DeSantis. A lot of people don't know this. DeSantis and Trump hate each other. Donald Trump hates Ron DeSantis. And what Ron DeSantis is trying to do is he's about to not be the governor of Florida anymore next year. He's going to have 2 years where he's not an elected official, but he really wants to run for president. And he knows he can't win that Republican primary without Donald Trump's help. So he has turned into Donald Trump's lapdog that Donald Trump actually hates. And he wants to do everything he can to be in the news, to get a news cycle, to lick the boot of Donald Trump, to try to earn some of that support so he's not completely irrelevant. And that's why we've seen all these things from redistricting, even the Everglades detention facility, the internment camp, Alligator Alcatraz, all this stuff he's doing because the dude wants to run for president. He has no juice. Nobody likes him, even in his own party.
He does not have the sauce. Have you heard his voice? Have you seen his boots?
And so this is what's going on in the state of Florida. I want to make sure people know. Jasmine brought it up. I always tell this to people, Project 2025, all this stuff everyone's seeing now, that's Florida 2020. Okay. This stuff that they're trying across this country, they've been doing in the South for a long time. They passed the big, beautiful bill for billionaires, the largest transfer of wealth from the working class to billionaires, the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, working class getting poor as well. They know they can't win the election because people are pissed off about it. In fact, Donald Trump sent his top people to Capitol Hill to tell the Republican Party, hey, you got to stop calling it the Big Beautiful Bill Act because it's so unpopular. We got to rebrand it. Bro, you named it the Big Beautiful Bill Act. You have the word beautiful in there. The facts of the matter are so bad that people don't like it, even your own party. And now they're trying to figure out how to change it. It's so unpopular. They know they're going to lose. And so they want to cheat. They want to cheat because they don't want to lose. And that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, they're terrified. And they're also terrified because they know that we do have a bit of hope. And of course, the momentum is mounting. I want to talk about not just what we'll do when we do, in fact, win the House back, but the successes that you've already had. You brought up what Stephen Miller and all the rest of those goons like to call Alligator Alcatraz. Of course, you made a big move there that I want you to talk about, and maybe we keep it open or reopen it for Stephen Miller, I don't know, in a couple of years. But can you talk about how we're still winning right now and what that means for when we actually do have the House back?
Well, something that I always told organizers when I was on the front lines of Black Lives Matter, and that I think about a lot now as a member of Congress that doesn't have all the seats we want, is when you don't have all the power you want, you use all the power you got. And one of the most important things we can do right now as elected officials is use our powers of oversight, especially as it relates to this, what I would say is a campaign of terrorism on our communities, of going in and kidnapping people and human trafficking them to other countries and other states. And when this facility was open, not just myself, but many other representatives across the state of Florida pulled up and said, we want to go in to see what's going on. And we didn't just do that. We coordinated with a lot of the people engaged in lawsuits. And we were able to find out, what information do you need from the inside? What can we get? We went in there and we got it. I went a second time and spoke with people who were being detained there and got even more information. Many of us did declarations. Some of us served as witnesses in the federal case. And many of you saw that we got that place shut down. A judge came out about a week ago and reverse that. It's going to be back and forth in court. But as of right now, that facility is not operating because of the work of the organizations that filed the lawsuit, but because elected officials said, you know what? We have privilege, we're at positions of power. How can we use that to support organizers? How can we use it to support this lawsuit to shut the place down? DeSantis is opening up another one in North Florida. And guess what? I'll be pulling up to that one as well. We got to do everything we can in this moment with what we got. And I'm really proud of that, what we did with Alligator Alcatraz, because I think it shows what happens when elected officials work with organizers, work with the people on the ground. We're not going to win 100% of the time, but sometimes we will win. And it feels good to win. And like it's going to feel good on election day at the end of this year when California passes this.
Absolutely it is. And if you want to make sure that that happens, go to yeson50, the number 50live.com, yeson50live. And I want this segment, Maxwell, you and I, to have raised the most. I don't know if that's Brian's going to tell me those numbers later, but I'm going to make the point of saying this is the person that you can really upset. That is our vice president. If you go and donate, I'm going to show it to you again. Jump scare right here.
Show it again.
But this
Everyone
is the
take
guy.
a look at that.
Take a look at that face.
Yeah.
Do
The
you want
higher
that
number
face
you
to
donate, the more you don't like him.
Exactly. I need y'all, and we'll do it one more time. This guy right here. Are you serious?
Oh my God.
Please, yeson50live.com. Turn out and fight, people.
Awesome. Thank you both. I should note that worked because we just passed $400,000. So thank you for
Only
showing...
good thing Stephen Miller ever did is help us raise money.
Thank you for showing his ugly ass face. We appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who's donated. For those who haven't yet donated, this is the whole ballgame here. We've been begging for Democrats to fight. This is what it looks like for Democrats to fight. They've done their part. We've got this thing on the ballot on November 4th. Now it's just a matter of making sure that we can raise enough money, grassroots, so that people all across this state know what's on the ballot, know what the stakes are in this upcoming election. So if you haven't yet donated and you have a few bucks, donate here instead of going and getting a coffee somewhere. 5, 10, 15 bucks. It makes a huge difference. And you can add your own name to the throngs of people who've already donated. We are fast approaching $500,000 in just a couple of hours tonight. And if you really hate that guy, if you really hate Stephen Miller and JD Vance, then your way to show that right now is to go to yeson50live.com. All right, Jack and Congressman Frost, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, very excited to bring up our next two guests. We have a dear friend of mine, Elizabeth Booker Houston. She is a lawyer, a public health official, stand-up comedian, political commentator. She gained national attention for legal analysis, blending legal analysis with satire, and her viral rebuke of conservative pundit Ann Coulter at the Democratic National Convention. Anybody who can do that is A-OK in my book. EBH is a badass, and we are so lucky to have her voice as part of this movement on the left. And she's joined by the leader of the Democrats in the House, Hakeem Jeffries. Thank you for first and foremost embracing the independent media space. I know that it's been especially important. I know the Democratic Party is oftentimes like a cruise ship, not exactly the easiest boat to turn, but your embrace of this space has made all the difference. So very much appreciate that, and looking forward to your conversation here.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Brian. Well, hello, House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. How are you doing this evening?
Good, Elizabeth. Great to be with you.
It's nice to talk with you too. And this is not the first time we've interacted. As a lot of folks know, I also wear a hat as one of the Congressional Black Caucus creators. So I'm always excited to talk to our amazing CBC members, and especially when it comes to an issue like this. And so folks, I'm just going to go ahead and put it at the top before we start into the interview. Yeson50live.com to donate. So if you are liking this conversation, I want you to go over there and donate. Remember that the Republican Party is strange, so drop us some change. If you want to make Trump holla, go give us $1. That's what you need to do. Okay, so let's get into this conversation. I want to talk about what's going on with gerrymandering in all of the states and why it's extremely important to tackle this issue and why California is so important. So I know that Missouri State Representative Ray Reid was on earlier tonight on the live, and I covered a lot of what was going on in the Missouri House, where they were trying to do a sit-in to stop the gerrymandering there. And so it's not just Texas, it's not just Missouri. We see that this is an issue that Republicans are spreading everywhere to steal seats. Leader Jeffries, tell me, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, this is an all hands on deck effort. I'm so thankful for the leadership of the California congressional delegation. Governor Newsom, the legislative leaders, members of the California legislature, the people of the great state of California for rising up to respond. What we're in the midst of right now is an unprecedented effort by Donald Trump and the extremists to gerrymander congressional maps all across the country as part of their effort to rig the midterm elections. Why are they doing it? Because they know that if the votes go to the people in a free and fair election, they're done. They're finished. They're cooked. The majority is gone. And so they've embarked in this unprecedented effort to try to mathematically stop us as Democrats, more importantly, stop the people from throwing them out of office because of their failure to deliver on their core promises of making life better for the American people and lowering the high cost of living. And instead, what they've done is to rip healthcare away from everyday Americans, steal food from the mouths of children, and in the context of their one big ugly bill, enact massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. So they know they've got zero track record to run on. They are actively doing harm to the American people, and they only have a 3-seat majority.
That's all they have. And that's why they're trying to steal these extra seats. That's why they're trying to pull them up. And so we know what's going on with Prop 50 here in California is to basically counteract what was going on in Texas. And I did have the opportunity to be on the ground in Texas, in Austin, and covering what was going on with the redistricting there to snatch up 5 seats. And so we see that Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to counteract that by taking away 5 Republican seats in California. And I don't consider that cheating. I consider that trying to even the scales, because the Republicans started by cheating. They started by trying to steal. And so now we see that the Democratic Party is trying to bring that balance back and properly represent the people. Because as you said, Leader Jeffries, things haven't gotten cheaper. They said that life was going to get cheaper. They said that they cared about children. They were the pro-life party. But as you pointed out, they've cut health care. They have cut SNAP benefits for children. They have not made good on any of the promises that were part of that campaign. And we're seeing this pushback, not just here in California. I think it's important for us to talk about how this is also going to set a standard for other blue states and governors in blue states. I had the opportunity to interview Governor Wes Moore, who was my governor in Maryland last week. And he said he is ready to redistrict and get rid of the 1 Republican congressional seat that we have here in Maryland. How important is Prop 50 right now, not just for California, but for setting the stage for other governors like Wes Moore and other states who are trying to push back and fight back?
It's a great question. We are in a more is more environment, and one thing builds upon the next. And so we started in Texas, and I'm thankful for the Texas Dems in the State House who had the courage to break quorum. And I visited them in Texas before they left, and then spent time with them in Chicago during the quorum break. And part of the reason that they took that extraordinary action was so that they could raise awareness about this national gerrymandering scheme that Republicans were engaging in to try to rig the midterm elections and to inspire action in other places. And then the baton was passed to California, which is why it's so important. Yes, on Prop 50, stop Trump from stealing the election. And what the people of California do, we've got to win this race. We need the resources. Republican mega billionaires who want to buy this country are going to try to buy the election.
Now, Leader Jeffries, hold on, because they said they were for the people. Are you telling me they're for the billionaires? Because that doesn't sound like what Trump and them were promising, though.
I mean, they lied. This is what they do for a living. This is not a government, a country of the people, by the people, and for the people that Republicans are delivering. It's of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires. We saw it on day 1 of his presidency. It was like a supervillain convention that was gathered in the Capitol. It was insane. And then they embarked on this scheme, the one big ugly bill, to reward their billionaire donors by taking from everyday Americans, including ripping healthcare away. So that's why, it's going to be important for us to decisively get this done in California. Make sure that whatever has been done in Texas, and we're challenging those maps because we believe those maps violate both the 14th Amendment of the Constitution as well as Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, because what they did in Texas, these Republican extremists, is to racially gerrymander. And it's important to note that what you're supporting in California in Prop 50 is a forceful response, but it's also a response consistent with our values, because the California map that will be before the voters is in complete compliance with the Voting Rights Act.
It's not any sort of racist practice. It's not discriminatory in any kind of way based on an immutable trait, as we know in our anti-discrimination laws. And I think that's a great point that you bring up that people need to understand. And I'm just going to do another plug in the middle of this interview, y'all, because look, if the Republican map start making any sense, y'all need to donate your cents. So I need you to go ahead. I need you to go to yeson50live.com and make your donation. And I think we're kind of getting toward the end of our time here. But I will have just one more quick question for you. I want to know, what do you think, if we can actually go ahead and turn things around for the midterms in 2026? Because we talk a lot about the negatives and what we're fighting against. Tell people what we're fighting for. What can the Democratic Party do in 2026 if we are able to flip the House, flip the Senate? What can we give to the American people?
Well, our message to everyday Americans is simple. We hear you, we see you, we feel you, and we know that you deserve better. And what we want to tackle on your behalf, one, the high cost of living is out of control. We have to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America on all the things to make sure that people can actually live the American dream, live the good life, good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement once you work hard and play by the rules. But the problem is far too many people are doing those two things and can't get to the American dream. The system has been rigged against them. We want to unrig the system. We want to fix our broken healthcare system, and we want to clean up corruption to actually deliver a government that makes life better for the American people. That's what you deserve. You clearly deserve better.
Well, y'all heard it here. We want to make sure you have health care, you have education, you have scholarships, you have funding for your schools, you have housing you can afford. And I just want to thank you so much to House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries for taking the time to lay it out for the people. And thank you, Brian Tyler Cohen, and of course to Governor Gavin Newsom and his team for having us on. Just a reminder again, go to yeson50live.com to donate.
Awesome. Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks, Leader Jeffries. We appreciate it. Now comes the point in the evening where I shamelessly trot out my dog. And if you're not going to donate for democracy, then at least do it for this 14-year-old dog right here. If ever there was a reason to open up your wallets and just make a little, surrender a little contribution, it's for this guy right here. I should also note that we are well past $450,000. We're making our way up to 500 grand right now. So if you have not yet donated, please help us reach this milestone of $500,000 in just a couple of hours here, as my dog very quickly sprints out of the room. Okay, very, very excited for our next couple of guests here. We have Lysandra Vasquez, who is a Puerto Rican-born, Atlanta-based stand-up comedian, actor, activist, and creator. I recently started following her. She is legit my favorite new follow on all of social media. I love following you. Congratulations on your explosive growth online. It could not be more deserved. So thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for giving everybody a little bit of comic relief as we descend deeper into the hellscape that is our politics today. She will be joined by Congresswoman Lateefah Simon, representing California's 12th congressional district. Congresswoman is a 30-year veteran organizer and nationally recognized advocate for civil rights and social justice. And of course, we ask you to yet again take up the mantle of fighting as we find ourselves in the position that we find ourselves in right now. So I'll leave it to both of you. Take it away.
I'm here for it. Lysandra, how you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for being here with me. Rep. Simon, I wanted to ask you about
the gerrymandering stuff first, but you know what? Everybody's pretty much covered that. I want to talk to you about your district. Your district is in Northern California, and it is extremely special because it is Oakland. I lived in California for 13 years. So I know Oakland, I know Berkeley, I know that area, and I know it's extremely diverse.
Yeah.
With your district being up there and the increase of the dangerous rhetoric for Black and Brown people and for immigrants, I know that that impacts your community just so much, just as it impacts the rest of the country. So in times like this, I feel like we need to come together, and with what's going on, it feels kind of hopeless for us, the Black and Brown folks and anybody that's marginalized. Why do you think that people of California, of the Bay Area, should be getting up, and literally anywhere in California should be getting up and voting yes for Prop 50?
I appreciate, first of all, it's so awesome to meet you. It's amazing to be on this call tonight. I'm actually not hopeless. I actually have a lot of hope because we have this opportunity with Prop 50. I'm a new member of Congress. Many folks know that, for 30 years, literally since I was a young woman, a teenager, I've been organizing all over California and throughout the country, repping for young single mothers like I was one. I am a widow, I'm disabled. And as a Black woman who understands really the intersectionality of how we all move forward, Prop 50 is an opportunity. And I want to be clear. This is not politics as usual. Prop 50 is about survival. If we lose, and I am always half full, right? But if we lose, there's no movement. I want to be clear, being a new member of Congress, I'm clear, I'm on that floor every single day. There will be no 2026. Every struggle, every civil rights struggle, our workers' rights struggles, the fight for women's rights, the ADA, the love for our immigrant communities, it depends on us keeping the ground that we have already won. I got to tell you, we're talking about an administration in 8 short months who has ripped you and your grandmother of Medicare, lessened food benefits for poor families, has ended clinical trials at second stage for children fighting cancer. This president, and I'm in here, sis, this president is hell-bent on stripping our folks of every single hard-won fight and right that we have bled for. So it's more than gerrymandering. Prop 50 provides the people of California with the opportunity to flex our power, to take back the dreams that we all have fought for. I believe that so deeply as an 11th generation American to the first generation Americans that I have been working with and working for. What's happening right now in Washington, D.C., this experiment of this republic is almost over, and I believe in this country. Prop 50 gives us the opportunity to fight back with all that we have, and we will win. So I am hopeful.
Yes, I could listen to you talk all day.
Wow,
I'm gonna make that
I'm
my
pumped.
ringtone.
I'm pumped. We have to win.
Yeah, no, we have to win. And that's why if you can donate, you should yeson50live.com. Okay, so I know that it's a big ask because I know people, it's hard to ask people to donate money. Why do you think it's a worthwhile thing for somebody to take their hard-earned dollars and donate it to a cause like this?
Yeah, I love the question. And so, like many folks on the call, we're all students of movements. Whether you know how your parents ended up in this country, they fought like hell to give you a better life, or like me, I've been a student of the civil rights movement. I've been studying Keynesian nonviolence all my life with working with young people on the ground. If we can literally all give 5, 10, 25, $50, $3,000, whatever you have, what you do in this campaign, you are directly funding folks to organize in communities. We want folks to actually say, I'm going to take time off work. I'm actually going to be a paid organizer. I'm going to print window signs. I'm going to literally go into every laundromat. Remember, this campaign is not just about fighting the oligarchy. It's about making sure that mother who doesn't have quarters for laundry understands that she has the power to ensure that we keep medical care for elderly folks and for disabled folks, that we fight back against the homophobic and transphobic administration that is throwing all of our children under the bus. I'm a single mom. I've run campaigns myself to get into office. Every window sign is $5, right? If I'm going to hire an organizer to knock 500 doors, I need to make sure that person has water. We need to get on TV every single day. The Republicans, they don't care about your health care. They don't care about your child who is desperately seeking a good education. So they're spending millions of dollars to flood the airwaves. I say we fight back with the little and big that we have. Whatever we have, this is it, sis. Sis, there's no 2026 if we don't win in November. They are doing everything possible to still not just the democracy, but the way of life and the justice that we have fought for. And I say, hell no. So whatever I have, whatever we have that we can spare, let's fund our organizers. Let's fund our voices. Let's get on TV. Let's get on radio. Let's do this. We only have a few short weeks, but we can win. I know that. Tonight, we're going to take it to the top. We're going to get enough organizers hired, enough door knockers trained, enough phone bankers set in stone. We got to plug in phones. We got to buy laptops. We are going to prove to the rest of the country that California will lead the fight to justice, the fight to equality, and really the fight for this very country's basic ideas of fairness and equity and a multicultural democracy that honors us all.
Period.
Right?
Yes.
I
Amazing.
think so.
Well, okay. So I'm amazing to all of that. I am a comedian, and so I like to focus on putting a little bit of joy in our daily lives. And I feel like
Let's
what
go.
makes us special is that we are able to laugh in the face of darkness, and we do see light even though things might look so dark.
Yes.
So
yes.
what do you have any final words as we're going to be wrapping up here soon, like on what, because I feel like this is going to help the black and brown people specifically, if we can come together and we can like focus on the fact that there is hope and that we can that we are more alike than we are different. So what is something that you would say to those people specifically to get them out and get them to come together?
First of all, you said it. Organizing is joy. When our folks come together and we bring music and we bring literally the stories of our people and we're marching and we're knocking on doors and we're asking folks to literally lend their power, it's the most critical resistance that we can do in this moment. We feel really hopeless, many of us, because we see ICE on our streets. We see folks being, taken and kidnapped, and due process is thrown out the window. One of the things that is very real right now is the joy is our power. We have it. If you have the right to vote in California, we can flip this whole script. Even if you're not in California, if you have $5 or $10 or $15 to spare in this moment, you will fuel a movement that will be undeniable. I would not tell you that if it was not true. So many times in politics, folks are given false promises. But one of the things that I know, again, being from California, my parents are from the South, I have an Afro-Latina daughter, our lives are on the line. And so let's smile, let's sing, let's march. We can weep later. But right now we got to organize. All right. Thank you so much, sister. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. And everybody, yes, on 50 Live. That's where you find it.
Awesome. And I should also note that we have surged past the 500,000 mark. So thank you to everybody who's donating. Please, as we head toward the end of this broadcast, please continue to donate. I should also note that one of the comments that I came across, David Daniels, I'm reading the comments. I know what people are saying, and I was told, and I quote, that there would be a $50 donation if I showed the dog again, and I am not above shamelessly whoring out this sweet, sweet child who wants nothing more than for us to surge past $600,000 in donations tonight for yeson50live.com. So
you got to bring him out on the campaign trail.
That's right.
What's the name?
That's right. Don't do it for me. Do it for him. Do it for tonight.
Fine.
Appreciate it. Very excited to ask our next guest to come in. We've got A.B. Burns Tucker, who is a graduate of Southwestern Law School, works as a social media influencer under the name I Am Legally Hype. If you are not yet following her, you want to follow her. Trust me, she's gained over 500,000 followers across every platform by breaking down complicated political and legal issues. She's also a political correspondent with the Shade Room. So again, if you're not yet following, do yourself a favor and follow. And thank you for the work you're doing breaking this stuff down. I know it is a Herculean feat task that you've taken on. And she's joined by two amazing fighters for democracy. We have Representative Kamlager Dove and also Representative Aguilar. Very excited to introduce you both from California's 37th and 33rd. Thank you so much for being here, for supporting independent media. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yay, I'm so excited. I'm excited to be joined by you both. Okay, Representative Kamlager Dove and Representative Aguilar. We got California in the house. Okay, baby, because y'all already know when Republicans go low, baby, in California, we get ready to squabble up. Okay, and we got two representatives here that are ready to fight for you. And fight we gonna do, because I mean, I know y'all seen my homegirl Liz earlier. I don't know if y'all seen her, but it's upsetting me and my homegirl, okay? Because if you can't go to California to fight gerrymandering, where can you go? Where can you go? So let's get into it. I'm excited. So my first question is this. Kamlager Dove, I'll let you go first. Republicans are out here and they just trying to take power. Okay, they redrawing congressional maps mid-decade so they can stay in control. So first tell us, why the hell are they doing this? Then talk about what exactly is Prop 50. And then we're gonna go into why Prop 50 is the perfect clapback for all this that's going on.
Back in the House. So, why are they doing this? They're doing this because they know they're going to lose in November, right? First, they did this $4.5 trillion tax cut for billionaires. They thought, oh, okay, people were going to be asleep at the wheel and be okay with that. Then we saw eggs started costing $15 a dozen and they were hard to find in the grocery stores, and gas was going up too. And then they said, well, we're going to have to pay for all these tax cuts by cutting your health care. So we had $770 billion cut to Medicare. We've seen cut to Medicaid in the state of California, shutting down and firing federal departments, firing federal workers, shutting down USAID, which is as much about foreign aid as it is about making sure that our farmers, California is a farming state, are being able to get these contracts. So all of it's going to hell in a handbasket. And the American people started waking up and they were like, oh, homie is not playing any of this, because this man ran for office to make the cost of living go down, not to have it skyrocket and then have all the money go into his pockets, because he's so, confused that all he wants to do is put more golden candelabras in the White House and then lend these arbitrary tariffs around the world so that we as consumers have to pay more. So he said, hey, 26 is coming up. Folks are waking up to the game. They might vote some of these Republicans out of office because these Republicans are not listening to the people. So let me call my governors in these red states and see which one will do what I ask. And what I'm asking for is more seats. I need more red seats. I want you to gerrymander. They still in. They're rigging it. And so who answered the call? Gregory Abbott. And he went into a back room, wheeled on in there, and without even consulting other Republican legislators, okay? That's how nasty they are. He redrew some maps. And in doing that, what he did was he's silencing voters in Texas. And he's erasing the possibility for people of color, Black folks, brown folks to be able to run for those seats. He is cutting off the pipeline at the local level because he's getting rid of seats at the federal level where folks would run. So, the bear was hibernating. We're trying to handle our own business, get these ICE agents all up out of Los Angeles, right? Make sure that folks can go to their jobs, go to their churches, go to their hearings without being snatched and kidnapped and detained and deported. But the bear woke up and said, I don't think so. And we came up with Prop 50. And, our Democratic caucus chair will, I think, share about, what Prop 50 is. But what we know, it's transparent. We know it's temporary. We know it's fair. And we know that it obeys the law. Did I set you up, Pete Aguilar?
You did, SKD. Thank you so much. Good to be with you, AB. And just like Sydney said, look, this is California punching back, doing everything we can. And we know we have the winning recipe because this is transparent. As Sydney said, Texas and Greg Abbott just changed the system and try to steal 5 seats. We go to the voters and we created a map collaboratively working together to punch back, but we made it temporary. The independent commission that we like comes back in 2031. We respect the Voting Rights Act. We respect Black and brown districts. And we make sure that we are meeting this moment and punching back appropriately. And so that's why we're transparent, we're fair. Because of that, we're going to have success with Proposition 50. Yes on 50live.com is where people can go to help out. 50 yeson50live.com. Thank you guys so much for elevating this platform and for giving us this space to talk about this, because this is so incredibly important. We cannot let Republicans steal an election. I absolutely believe, and Sydney and I both subscribe to what Lateefah said, this is about free and fair elections in 2026 and in 2028. And we won't have those if Republicans can consolidate power around these terrible policies and rig the system as they go each and every month.
It's also about jobs. It's about healthcare. It's about having a future for your family. It's about being able to go to school and get an education. It's about not being afraid that all of the colleges and universities in your town are going to dry up. It's about knowing that you can walk outside your home and not be detained and deported, not be lynched because of the color of your skin. These are folks that want a national abortion ban. They are doing every single thing that they can to take us back to pre-Jim Crow. And I am not being hyperbolic. So it is about democracy, but it is also about the money in your pocket and your ability to earn and learn and have a family. And if folks don't want you engaged, if they don't want you to be able to vote, if they don't want you to have love for your country, then they have won. And we cannot let that happen. No way, not now, not ever.
Okay, period. And with that being said, right, not only do we need y'all money, but we need y'all to pull up and actually vote, right? So turnout in special elections are usually pretty low, right? Especially in Black and minority communities. Rep. Aguilar, I think your district is something like 60% Hispanic and maybe about 10% Black. Rep. Kamala Dove, I think yours is something about 54% Black or Hispanic, about 20% Black, something right there. Why do you think Right. Why do you think it's so hard for us to get these people out, or get these people out to vote? Are we not communicating properly? Is it a failure on political leadership? Are we not meeting voters where they are? What do we need to do to make sure not only we get the money to make sure we're getting the message out, but we get these people registered to vote? Today is National Registration Day. Registered to vote and out voted so that we can redistrict. And yes, on Prop 50, Rep. Aguilar, I'll start with you.
Yeah, National Voting Registration Day. This is so incredibly important. I think the answer to your question is we have to inspire people. And just like Sydney said, we have to make this about the American public and what they benefit when we are able to govern. And when Leader Jeffries becomes Speaker Jeffries, we're going to be able to lower the costs of healthcare for people. We're going to be able to put more money in people's pockets. We're going to be able to clean up the culture of corruption that allows the president to trade in meme coins and the Supreme Court to run around and without a code of ethics or any principles at all. I mean, those are the things that we're going to be able to do when we have the ability to push back legislatively. But to Sydney's point, we have to make this and center this around the American public. And they are getting crushed by costs. They're getting crushed in this Trump economy. And we have to connect the dots and tell them why Yes on 50 is going to help them. And so that's the important piece, but we have to do more. We got to knock on doors. We got to reach people. We got to tell them this is just going to be a small ballot. We just need them to put in yes and send it back in. And because in California, We have an ability for mail-in voting that doesn't exist around the country. And we have a strong ability to allow people to exercise their right to vote. We need to make sure that they use it, that they use their voice, and that they do it. And around the country, people are waiting in lines for hours. We're making this easy for people. If you're working 2 jobs, if you're picking up your kids from school late, you don't have to make that choice, whether I'm going to pick up my kids late or go to vote. You can do it in the comfort of your own home, and you're going to have a ballot at your home in just a couple of weeks.
All right, so y'all going to the projects with me, right, to get them folks registered to votes? Yes,
queen.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Now, here's the other thing. So the message is going out from the other side, right? I didn't see the commercials. I was at my granny house this past weekend. Actually, my granny in your district, Aguilar, my granny out there in your district. I was at her house. Because I don't got cable at home. Okay. Yeah. My granny and them got cable, so they seeing the messages, right? And some Republicans are out here claiming that Prop 50 actually hurts democracy and strips the power from voters. Tell us why they lying, Kamala.
Well, I hate to say it, but right now they're lying just because they're Republicans and they're scared to tell the truth under Donald Trump. It just is what it is. And so we have to bring courage back up in here into this fight, and Democrats have the courage because like I said, we weren't trying to do this, but we have to do this. We have to do it for Texas, we have to do it for Missouri, we have to do it for Indiana, we have to do it for Florida, we have to do it for Ohio, we have to do it for California. You know, they have more money. We're doing this telethon like World Aid. This is World Aid for Democracy. Okay. Because we need to raise this money to get the information out. A single issue ballot in November when you're already tired from 2024, that is a heavy lift, okay? We still got the 92% out there. Folks are like, all these maniacs up in Congress, it's a circus. I'm a check out. But we have to check back in. Like we said, this is temporary. We're trying to go back to having an independent commission. Hell, we want one for the entire country because ain't nobody got time for none of this. But we have to step up and show up come this November to let folks know that we are not going to stand by and let folks that we don't know, to let folks who we know don't even love this country, walk all over our rights, the Constitution, and our ability to make and earn a living for ourselves and for our family members. So we have to tell them this is temporary. We have to tell them that this abides by the Voting Rights Act. We have to tell them that representation is still important. We have to tell them that this is fair. We have to remind them that these maps are going to be on the ballot, yo. So if you want receipts, the receipts are going to be on the ballot. We are not trying to hide. We are trying to save. And we need everyone to check in. It is like when you watch a game and your folks are playing and they're on the field and, you know, it gets kind of quiet because your folks are way, way behind and you want to check out. But your team cannot have you check out. You got to still be rah-rahing. You got to buy those concessions. You got to be rooting for your team because they are still on the field. And Democrats are still on the field. And we all have a role to play in this fight. And right now, the role that we have to play is to stay engaged and to talk to our friends and our family members and let them know what's at stake and then make sure that everybody's asses show up either to vote at the polls or get that ballot, fill it out, and send it in. We need everyone to participate because everyone's rights are at risk. Everyone's coins are at risk. Everyone's future is at risk. I'm trying to be as hype as Lateefah Simon, yo, because I think that SoCal can rock like the Bay. But all of these issues are at stake and will be on the ballot come November. Did I do it? Did I do it? Did I do it?
I didn't put my vaccine on my face. I'm ready to fight. We're getting in these streets, okay? We're getting in these streets. We're gonna get these people registered.
Okay.
That's on Prop 50. Y'all better donate, y'all. I didn't put this Vaseline on my face.
Look, I'm gonna put my hair up, yo. I'm gonna take off my earrings.
Period. Now
I don't know.
Like, what's happening? What's happening?
I don't know what's going on here, but I love it all.
Look, we from California, okay? We from the land, right? And look, and I'm from Compton originally, and now my granny live in your district on Hub City and IE. We in here, we finna get it in.
AB, tell Granny I'm gonna pick up her ballot. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm gonna tell her
California.
she gonna be so happy. I'm gonna call Granny right now.
Door to door service.
Okay, you better come pick it up, or my granny gonna come looking for you. Aguilar, I ain't gonna hold you.
That was, I have no notes. That could not have been more entertaining. Thank you all so much. AB, thank you for the most entertaining panel of the night. Appreciate you guys, Representative Kamlager Dove and Aguilar. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening. We are fast approaching $750,000. Thank you so much for donating. I'm gonna have a graphic right here on this screen. Let's see if we can get this on the screen so that we can show a little bit of what everybody's efforts have ushered in this evening. So I believe that the screen shows right now a map of the entire United States in terms of the donations that we've gotten this evening. You can see all of those spots across the country where we've gotten donations, every single state in the country. So thank you to every corner of the United States for donating tonight. We could not have done this without everybody. Yes, this is a California-based initiative, but this is based on the whole country. It is not just California. We know that Republicans are trying to gerrymander these seats in Texas and Missouri and Indiana and Ohio and Florida and any other governor and any other state legislature that wants little pats on the head from Daddy Trump is going to do the exact same thing. So this is our effort to fight back. This is how we push back against this overreach by the Republican Party, because this is a major weapon that we have to wield right now. California can neutralize all of these shenanigans, all this bullshit that they're trying to pull in all these other states across the country. And by the way, the Republicans across the country know that, which is why they are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into this state to defeat this effort. We don't have big moneyed interests like they have on the Republican side, so this is our grassroots effort right now to push back. We are fast approaching $750,000 in our effort. Again, grassroots donations, $5, $10, $15, $20 to be able to push back and let people know in this state, across the biggest state of the country, what the stakes are of this upcoming election on November 4th, what this referendum actually represents, which is our effort to push back against a blatant Republican overreach happening right now at the behest of Donald Trump. So thank you to everybody for donating. If you haven't yet donated, please go to yeson50live.com. We have our last guest here, our last two guests here. I'm very, very excited to introduce Lee McGowan. You might know her as Politics Girl. Could not be more excited. Look, I think that we have to call out the people who are doing this for all the right reasons, and Lee exemplifies that better than anybody else. This is somebody who truly, truly, truly believes in her mission. I'm sure you've seen her videos from the kitchen. We have a slightly elevated background right now. Lee, could not be more grateful for your voice. And of course, Lee is joined by our fearless leader here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom. I just want to say, and I know I've repeated this a couple of times throughout this call, but for folks who are just watching right now, we have been begging for Democrats to actually fight back, to match their words with action. And that's what we got right here. So Gavin Newsom has gotten us halfway here, and now the onus is on the rest of us to meet him halfway, to donate to this effort so that we can make sure that everybody in the state knows what the stakes are. So I will stop talking. I'll leave it up to you guys now, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks so much, Brian. You are the absolute best, and you are in it for all the right reasons too, my friend. And listen, Governor, thank you for doing this today. Thank you for bringing the fight.
You and I need a dog or something. I mean, I didn't think we could top a 14-year-old dog. And then, of course, AB and Sydney, poor Pete. Jesus, that was next level.
I know. You and I both need our Vaseline. That's what we really need. I'll take out my earrings. You'll get your Vaseline because I'm here for the fight. Look, listen, you're here for the fight. Thank you for doing this, right?
Thank you.
I have to tell you, after watching this live today, what's this feeling I'm feeling? Is it hope? Are you feeling a little hope from watching all this today?
Yeah, I mean, come on. How can you not be? I mean, I appreciate Brian just saying every single state. We didn't know that would happen tonight. We didn't know anyone would show up. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people have tuned in. Some have been around. This is our third hour, which is extraordinary. And the fact that things were just tuned up just reinforces your point about optimism and energy. It makes people feel like they're being seen and they're being heard. It makes people feel like there's momentum and there's an opportunity here to do something as opposed to talk about doing something, to actually demonstrably have an impact, to be for something, not just against something. And so this has been next level. I just want to thank everybody, Lee, you for being here at the end of this. And by the way, on a personal note, thank you for getting me through the pandemic, Lee. I think everybody's shaking their head. You literally got us through the pandemic, and you gave voice to so many of us that were so fearful, so isolated at that time. And so I think in the spirit that is your spirit, the spirit that defines all of the remarkable hosts we had tonight, just gratitude, thanks, and optimism and hope.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I think we've seen the Democrats get attacked across the country for the past week, and just treated like with one big brush that we're all the worst people in the world. And I keep thinking, how is this the case? Like, we are the party that wants you to have health care and better schooling and, to take care of your children and to get guns out of our children's faces in their classrooms. And I've watched Democrats be attacked this week. And this is such a wonderful evening because California is doing what they're doing now is a direct response to a Republican action. And as a California voter myself, I'm going to be voting yes on 50 on November 4th. And I'm going to be contributing to yeson50live.com after we finish this. But I really hope that everybody who is listening tonight and is taking this in is as fired up as I am and feels like we see you, that you are not this horrible person. You are not the party of murder and death and destruction that you've been told that you are here for the right reasons, that we can make a difference and we can put people that want to use government for the force of good back in office again.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you heard from so many people here tonight. I mean, these guys want to put America in reverse. Yeah. They want to, roll back hard-earned, hard-fought progress and rights. And it's a pre-1960s world that they're preaching. I mean, Sydney made an even more extreme point. But that's a fact on civil rights, LGBTQ rights, on women's rights, on voting rights. And they're not screwing around. To your point in this last week, the rhetoric, I mean, just the rhetoric from the President of the United States. He didn't get any memo about coming together and working, bridge the divide and building a bridge and organizing it, just sort of the better angels. Quite the contrary. Did you hear Stephen Miller on Friday night? Did we hear him over the weekend? Is anyone paying attention to what is going on at the Department of Justice? To what the cross-examination today we talked about over the last 3 hours of Kash Patel. These guys are not screwing around. And we have been, and I thought Beto said it right, we were so consumed, we have been as Democrats, being right and not focused on being in power. And at the end of the day, all the progress that we've made, all the progress of the last century on voting rights, civil rights, all those issues were because we were in power. We had not just leader Jeffries, we had Speaker Jeffries, Speaker Pelosi, and the progress we were made is because we organized and we turned out in remarkable numbers. And we turned out, as you said, for social justice, racial justice, economic justice. We turned out because we believe we're all better off and we're all better off. We turned out because we don't tolerate one another. We want to celebrate one another and unite around the things that bind us together and the spirit of the best of the founding fathers. So that's what Prop 50 is about. And if I may, I just think I don't want to talk around it. You heard a little bit, but just to highlight what everybody means tonight, the fact that you came together, we've raised over $750,000 from 50 states. I want folks to know every week, one person has donated $10 million to defeat us. One person. Someone who doesn't believe in reproductive freedom, someone who believes in the extremes of the Republican Party, one billionaire every week, $10 million, $10 million, $30 million and counting. You had Mike Johnson write his first check. And who, by the way, who are the biggest donors behind that check? Guys like Elon Musk. Yeah. Know what we're up against and know that you're the antidote to those folks and we can defeat them.
Yeah, and that's why we need these resources, so we can counter the right-wing money machine, who are really hoping to defeat this proposition so they can keep Donald Trump and his billionaire agenda going, because they're getting everything they want right now. And it's so important that we counter their messaging. I was talking to one of my neighbors on the dog walk the other day, because I do have a big dog I could put right here on my lap, but he would take up the whole screen. And he said to me, "Why am I getting all these emails about no on 50?" And I said, because they have so much money, an absurd amount of money to keep defeating democracy. These people have spent 40 years trying to dismantle it. I do not think they thought the Democrats were going to fight back here. And it's why we're so grateful to you for stepping up. And now they have to spend a ton of money to make a counter punch look like a first punch. And they're the ones that brought this fight. And we're just finally standing up to the cheating.
No, I love that. It was said by a number of people. This was not the fight we chose. But I think what you just said was even more powerful. I don't think Trump for a second expected us to fight back like we're fighting back. And that's why failure is not an option. It is not an option. I mean, I can't even conceive of the impact if we run short. We can't run the 90-yard dash on this. I mean, 2026, if we limp into 2026, we're in real trouble. So we can build the kind of momentum. 2026 begins this November, and it's November 6th. But as Pete and others just said, it's really October 6th, because those ballots land in people's mailbox in just a few weeks. Early voting is October 6th. It ends on November 6th. And that's the opportunity for folks to remind everybody the power of early voting, the power of emulation, meaning emulate kind of the things you heard here tonight, and the kind of energy and the caring and daring that so many people shared tonight, and to make sure that we don't dream of regretting. We got to put everything out on the line, because this is about holding the line, and it's about holding up this democracy.
Yeah. I know you wish it wasn't like this. I wish it wasn't like this, but I keep saying, like, there's no point in complaining, like, these aren't the rules, when the other team keeps roundhouse kicking us to the face, right? It doesn't matter that this isn't how politics is supposed to be played. If it is being allowed, then the rules have changed, and we either kick back or we keep getting beat. And I think I speak for many of us when I say we are sick and tired of losing.
You got it. And again, we're using, I said it before, not just our formal authority by organizing this construct and putting it on the ballot, but our moral authority by doing something that's never been done. If you still have some hesitancy, you still have some doubt, well, I don't like, just emulating the bad behavior. I don't want them to implicate me in the way they do things. This is democratic. This is transparent. The maps are on the ballot. That's never happened in this country. We have never submitted to the people the ability to draw their own maps. So we're giving the people that power. This was not done in Mar-a-Lago. This was not done behind closed doors, as was the case in Texas, as is going to be the case shortly in Indiana, and what just happened in Missouri, and what is likely to happen in Florida and Ohio and elsewhere. This is done in the most transparent way, and again, in a temporary response to what Donald Trump and what the Texas delegation did and Greg Abbott in just a few weeks ago. So I can't press upon people more that this is it. This is it. And we've got to hold the line. We've got to hold each other's hands. We've got to walk across this line at peak. And we've got to, as you say, fight fire with fire. And we've got to be muscular in terms of our approach and response.
That's right. Absolutely. I want to thank you so much for doing this today, Governor. It's what we all really, really need. And for people who are feeling a little bit like two wrongs don't make a right, and I'm not sure if I should go for this, understand that this is going in the most democratic way possible. This is a temporary thing. And the goal at the end of this would be have no gerrymandering at all. It's why the Democrats voted for the For the People's Act in 2019. It's why they voted for the Redistricting Reform Act again in 2021, and why the Republicans voted against it both times, because it is the Republicans who benefit from locking in power so it's no longer accountable to the voters. And this is not what we want, which is why we are starting by doing this, by being accountable to the voters. So thank you so much, Governor. I hope people will go to Yes on 50 Live right now and get us past that mark. But thank you, everyone. And I really hope you're feeling the same hope I'm feeling today.
Love it, Lee. Well said.
Thanks so much, Lee. And
bring it home. Bring it home.
And Governor Newsom, I got to say, I know I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. there are a million reasons to have not done this. That it's too hard, that it's too close to the election, that there's too many people standing in the way, that it would just be easier if we just practice good governance and unilaterally disarm like Democrats always do. The reality is that thanks to your leadership, thanks to the leadership of the California Democrats, we got this thing done, which is half the battle right now. And so I'll repeat my plea to those who are watching right now. The reality is we got to get this thing in front of as many Californians as humanly possible. And the way that we do that is by looking to those grassroots donations. We don't have these billionaires, mega billionaires who are donating 10 million bucks a pop like they have on the Republican side, because they know that if they can neutralize what happens in California, then they're good to go. There's no other big weapons to deploy like we have in California. And so our antidote to that is going to be getting as many people in the grassroots donating as humanly possible. We're just a few $1,000s away from $750,000 a quarter, $750,000. And that money is going to help get this thing in front of so many Californians who don't know what the stakes are of this upcoming election on November 4th. It's going to make sure that we can get in front of people's TV screens, on their computer screens, on their phone screens, in their mailboxes, and we can't do that without this massive amount of support. So for everybody who's donated, thank you so much for being part of this effort. Thank you for being part of this movement. And also thank you for being part of helping give something of a permission structure for other Democrats across the country to recognize that if they take aggressive action, if they take a forward-leaning posture when it comes to fighting for our democracy, that they're going to have the people behind them. This is not just a California thing. Not only does it have major implications for the House as we head toward 2026, but this is also a message to other Democratic governors, other Democratic state legislatures, that the answer is not to cower, it is not to capitulate, it is to put on your big boy pants and fight. And that's what we're seeing right now. And the way that we make sure to give that permission structure to other Democrats to do that is by making sure that we succeed here. This is the test case. If it succeeds here, then it shows every other governor, every other state legislature, every other lawmaker, senator across the country that the answer in this moment is not to bow down, it's not to capitulate to Trump and Republicans, it's not to appeal to our better angels and practice good governance and unilaterally disarm, it is to lean forward and fight. And that's what we're seeing right now. And of course, the ability to win this fight relies on everybody chipping in whatever we can to make this thing a reality. So Governor, on behalf of everybody watching, cannot thank you enough for leading in the way that we've been begging so many people to lead, which is to back up your words with some action here.
I love it. And I'm asking you for one last action because we're going to hit 750,000, but it's going to require one thing, Brian. That's not any more of your time, but one more opportunity to see that beautiful dog of yours.
All right. You know what?
This is it. This is it. This is how we get over $750,000. This is it, Brian.
Here we go.
No pressure.
Here we go. Look at this
There
child.
we go.
I'm not asking you to do it for me. I'm asking you to do it for this little guy. This is don't do it for me. Don't do it. Don't even do it for democracy. Just do it for this child right here, who doesn't know why I'm subjecting himself to these live streams over and over and over again.
He's already passed out. Unbelievable.
That's right.
Look at
That's
that.
right.
Hey, Brian, you're a rock star. The fact you hosted this 3 hours, unbelievable. To all of our influencers, all of our creators, to all the remarkable elected officials across the country. For those of you tuned in, even for 2 minutes, for the last 2 hours, thank you. Those of you who made a contribution, we're grateful beyond words. Get the word out there. Let folks know yes on Prop 50.
Thanks so much, Governor. And for those who are looking to donate, yeson50live.com. Thanks, everybody.